Okay. And we're recording. And Hazbin Hotel is cringe. It is my new favorite show. By Blooms.
Hotel is cringe.
Okay.
The humor is passable at its best and down.
And we have an advertisement right when we start. Can you believe that? This gives me a chance to tell you, please subscribe. I'm trying to get 500
Downright
subs.
painful at its worst. The writing is reminiscent of early 2010s Tumblr fanfiction. It tries to...
Well, that's because Vivzy came out of Tumblr, right? Why? Of course, it reminds you of Tumblr fanfiction because it came from Tumblr.
Be edgy in the most vanilla way possible. It's incredibly derivative of its inspirations. All the things it does well have been done better by countless other shows, and because I can't go a single video without mentioning South Park in some way, it's basically taking a single joke from the South Park movie and building an entire show around it. It's cringe. But despite all of that, I kinda love this show. I really don't understand it. There have been so many shows that I've watched that have these same traits, and I always hate them. But despite all of these things that I hate being present in the show, I really liked it.
Well,
I swear, I think this show has some sort of liberal agenda, MK Ultra mind control that's built into it, and it's slowly turning me into a gay teenager because that's the only rational explanation.
Alex Jones knew all along. He called Hazbin Hotel. He did. See? Blooms was right. Blooms was right.
For my enjoyment of this show. I'm just kidding, of course. Despite my initial confusion, I've come to identify quite a few things I like about this show, as well as quite a few things that I don't like about it, aside from the previously stated ones. And it's truly incredible, because I don't tend to be embarrassed of any of my interests, despite the fact that most of them are objectively pretty cringe, but I'm not gonna lie, I questioned making this video. I have friends and family in real life that watch my videos. I can't just admit to liking Hazbin Hotel. The group chat would never let me live it down. To put it simply, I can't let gang know I fuck with this. But I just have to get it off my chest. Someone has...
Is that true? The people that like the show are usually of the homosexual variety? I did not know that. I did not know that. I just thought it was pretty good. I just thought the show was pretty good. I didn't know that.
To hear me rant about how I hate so much about this show, and yet there's just something about it that has fully captured me, and I can't help but admit that I'm a fan of the show. I watch YouTube shorts breaking down the lore and anime power scaling different characters, okay? I admit it. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Anime power scaling the characters?
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let me give some context into what
that exists? I just thought it was a show about trying to become better as people.
I knew about this show before I started watching it and why I actually decided to watch it. If you don't care and want to skip this incredibly long intro, I labeled the chapter below so you can go ahead and skip it if you want. It all started on the website where the best opinions on the internet are formed, twitter.com.
Yeah,
I started to see mention of this thing called Hazbin Hotel. I would see opinions about it pop up in my feed randomly, or even see it on the trending page. People seem to have really passionate opinions about it, which confused me a lot. For a long time, I didn't really pay attention to these tweets since
we're on the internet. People have passionate opinions about everything. We once spent, as a collective, spending 20 days, okay, determining if Kim Jong-un had a butthole. And then we spent an entire week finding Shia LaBeouf's "He Will Not Divide Us" flag. So yeah, the internet has they come together to do some really stupid things. You should just expect this by now, okay? If you're on the internet long enough, you just gotta expect stupid, dumb things.
I only vaguely recognized the name, and I thought I knew what they were talking about. You know, I don't get it. How can people have such strong opinions about this old browser game? I mean, people on Twitter were constantly upset about stuff less important than a Flash game from the early 2000s, so it really didn't surprise me much. It would be a few weeks before I would finally realize my mistake. You see, this whole time I had been confusing Hazbin Hotel with the massively multiplayer online game Habbo Hotel. When I realized it was actually about a new animated show.
Someone call Habbo. Oh, I have a. Is he in my Discord? He's not in my Discord. I would write to him.
I was very confused by the large amounts of hate I saw for it. I thought surely it can't be that bad, so I decided to watch the trailer. It was animated in a similar way to how most kids' cartoons are, but it had a bunch of swearing and sex jokes to show that it's actually for adults. The trailer was basically telling me, yeah, I may look like I'm for kids, but I'm actually pretty hardcore. I say the F word, and I know stuff about sex too.
I don't know. Like, one episode was 18 plus, the rest were 16. Like, is what Amazon rated it. I say that's accurate. If you're 16 years old, you could watch the whole show and be fine. I would show a 16-year-old the show. I don't think it's that bad. Really?
To put it simply, it looked corny and I had no interest in it. Then, one day, I saw another tweet critiquing the writing in the show that included a clip for reference. It was a song. I was immediately surprised and thought, wait, the show is a musical? I do enjoy musicals, but it's not like something being a musical would make me enjoy it immediately. But by the time I had finished the clip, I came to two realizations. Number one, the people trashing the show for its bad writing around serious topics literally just didn't understand the message the show was very clearly putting out. And two, the song was actually really good. Like, really, really good. Sure, it definitely had some moments that confirmed my suspicions about the cringeworthy humor, but underneath the occasional cringy sex joke was a surprisingly well-made song with a strangely impactful message and great animation, even without any of the context. I was shocked. After everything I had heard and seen about this show, I had no interest in it, but watching this clip convinced me that something of this quality could not have just been a fluke. Underneath all of the out-of-place swearing and sex jokes that made me roll my eyes, I could see that this show was something special.
I like the sex jokes. I thought they were funny. Okay, I did. Those little moments of comedy were my favorite parts of the shows. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of sex jokes.
I knew that I had to watch it. So, that's exactly what I did. It was a quick and easy watch, only 8 20-minute episodes, or 9 if you include the original pilot on YouTube. After finishing it, I intentionally avoided looking at anyone's opinions of the show, because I knew I was going to make a video about it, and I didn't want to be influenced by anyone on my thoughts. I also did pretty much no research into the creator of the show, VivziePop, or any extra lore of the show, because I have a few predictions I want to make about both her and the lore, and I think it'd be funnier if I knew nothing about them. And for the record, after I watched the show, I decided to try out one of VivziePop's other shows, Hell of a Boss, which is also incredibly popular. And I'm not sure why, but I got about 3 episodes in and it just never caught my attention and I stopped watching it. I don't know, it just didn't hook me in the same way that Hazbin Hotel did. Don't know why that is. I'm sure eventually I'll watch it, and if you guys ever want a video on it, just let me know. But that's how I feel about it right at this moment, because I'm sure someone was going to ask about it in the comments. So this is going to be as objective as it gets. I'm sure it's going to turn out that the creator is a Nazi who also kills puppies for fun or something, or at least that's what Twitter probably thinks of her. But
well, she really did have a bunch of controversies. I was told by multiple people, thank you comments and other such things, that yes, VivziePop had like a bunch of controversies that went along with her, and she did a bunch of like questionable things, but it seems pretty reasonable that she seems fine. Not like nothing worse than I ever did.
I don't want to know that right now because I want all of my thoughts to be directly from the show. So, what makes Hazbin Hotel such a fascinating case of simultaneous cringe and quality? Well, with the intro out of the way, let's get into it. Hazbin Hotel is cringe, and it's my new favorite show. So there's going to be very little organization to this video. I'm kind of just going to talk about the things I like and don't like as I think of them, but I'll try to create chapters for what I'm talking about so that you can skip around as you'd like. So let's start with the very first thing I noticed when I started the show. It's very heavily inspired by South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Now I don't technically know if VivziePop has ever mentioned her influences, but as someone who has watched the South Park movie many times, I immediately noticed a number of parallels. Hey, Editor Blooms here, just found this tweet where VivziePop mentions that South Park actually was one of her her big inspiration, so I just figured I'd mention that. Anyways, back to the video. And for the record, I'm not pointing this out as a bad thing. I love the South Park movie, so the fact that Hazbin Hotel is inspired by it just means that I'm more likely to enjoy it. I just have to live up to my reputation as the South Park guy and make sure that everything is related to South Park in some way, because that's just what I do. So in the intro, when I said that it seems like they built an entire show around a single joke from that movie, I was referring to Satan's musical number Up There.
Sometimes I think when I look up real high.
It's basically your cliche Disney princess song where they lament about wanting change, but sung by the literal devil. It's a clever juxtaposition, giving the most evil being to exist the emotional ballad that's usually reserved for the teenage girls. And it makes for one of the funniest moments in the movie.
Have you heard of semaglutides? Ozempic, Monjaro?
Hartman, this could be dangerous.
So to me, it feels like Vivzy Pop thought this was very funny and decided to take this idea of a Disney princess in hell and make them the main character.
I can do this. Somehow I know it. I'll get heaven behind my plan.
Charlie is quite literally a Disney princess through and through. She just happens to be the princess of hell. So obviously the setting and the concept are pretty similar to the hell plotline in Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, but inspiration can also be seen in other areas. A lot of the things that are similar between the two are kind of just things you'd expect to see in a musical, but the sense of humor between the two is very similar. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say that Hazbin Hotel is on South Park's level comedically, or even close for that matter, but the broad strokes that make the movie what it is are clearly present here. The excessive swearing, the raunchy, profane nature, it's all kind of South Park's trademarked formula. Now, one of my biggest problems with the show...
Now, I've refused to watch South Park. A lot of people that know me know that I don't like South Park due to the jokes they make against Christ in it. So it's just me and my moral standard. And yeah, I watched Hazbin and thing, and I still think that they are leagues, if leagues less offensive than South Park gigs.
Is how a lot of the humor falls flat in this regard, which I'll get into more later, but it's clear to me that the show is at least attempting to utilize that same style of humor. The musical numbers themselves also have some similarities. For example, the opening number is pretty similar to South Park's opening number, with the whimsical depictions of an idealistic town.
Another Sunday morning in my quiet mountain town.
Something tells me that today will be a happy day in hell.
Granted, this is more of just a general trope for Disney-style musicals, but the less than idyllic reality is where the similarities lie.
All the happy people stop to say hello.
Get out of my way!
Even though the temperature's low.
Hi, mister.
Yourself!
There's an endless trash fire that's burning my soul.
You see homeless people, but you just don't care. It's a sea of smiles in which we'd be glad to drown.
It's a realm so appealing it beats anywhere. If you don't mind the smell.
And of course, the final song of the show is a reprise of this opening song where all of the characters join in to sing together. Again, this is more just because it's pretty common in musicals. I just thought it was interesting to mention.
I thought the finale song was pretty good. I did. I actually really enjoyed the finality of Hazbin. And how it correlated to the opening. Like I've been to a lot of musicals over in the theater near me. Like plays, like actual ones. And my grandmother, my aunt, my mother used to take me, and I always enjoyed them a lot. So I think in retrospect when they did that, I thought it was good. I thought they did a good job.
Also, spoiler alert from here on out, I will be talking about plot details from Hazbin Hotel, so if you don't want it spoiled, don't watch it anymore. But funny enough, both Hazbin Hotel and the South Park movie end with a scene of a character from hell who had sacrificed themselves for the greater good being accepted into heaven, and I thought that was kind of funny.
What?
But those are just some of the similarities that I noticed immediately. I'm sure if I notice any more, I'll talk about them throughout the video. So now, let's actually talk about the show. 9 minutes in. Yeah, this one might be a bit longer than I thought. So if I had to describe this show in a sentence, I'd say something along the lines of, if a Tumblr user from 2014 decided to make a show for a more mainstream audience, but the target audience is still high school band and theater kids. The colorful, cartoony animation with villains that seem kinda like they're drawn to be devilishly attractive. The fact
Your best friend, Kellis. Thank you so much for following. I really appreciate that, and I'll be your friend.
that I don't think a single character in the show is straight, and of course, plenty of jokes using
Yeah, that is something I did think of in the show. A lot of the characters are just gay or asexual, some kind of LGBT community. And that's fine if that's what you want to make. It just, you know, it just correlates to her. It just seems like she wanted to make something that was similar to, like, her lifestyle.
Daddy in a sexual way.
And I need a big, strong daddy to put me in my place.
Like, that's
on the
funny,
path
though, right?
to redemption.
I mean, I can practically hear the sophomores giggling from the brass section after one of them just...
It's not a sophomore. I am 23 years old, and I still think it's funny. Don't you judge me. Bloom.
quoted Angel Dust. And for the record, I'm not making fun of these kids. The reason I can be so sure of this is because I was that kid in my early years of high school, except I wasn't actually in band or theater. I just had friends that were, so instead I just had all of the cringe and none of the talent. Like I said, I don't know much about the creator's history, but if she wasn't an avid Tumblr user back in the day, I would be shocked. But that brings us to our first point of discussion, the animation and art. This is one of the strongest aspects of the show for me. It seems like with adult animation, specifically in the Western world, they're always competing to see whose art style can be the ugliest. I don't know if this is because the medium is almost exclusively to comedy shows and that's supposed to be funny, or if the earliest adult cartoons like Beavis and Butthead or South Park just kind of set the precedent for an intentionally ugly or overly simple style, but it's such a breath of fresh air to see the creativity of Hazbin Hotel's art. Now, I'm no expert in animation or art in any way. I'd equate my artistic skills to that of an infant with Parkinson's, but as someone who just watches cartoons a lot, I really like the style they went for here. Everything from the settings to the character designs feel very intentionally designed in the sense that they're all pretty unique and strange, but the art is still very consistent, enough that I'm confident I could identify that everything was from the same show, even if I hadn't seen the show. Except for this character, who only appears for one scene, but seriously, what the hell is that? It literally looks like a fan art of a furry who put their own, like, fursona into this episode. Like, it just feels so out of place. I don't get it. But this consistency also contributes to one of my complaints about the art style, which is the color choices. Everything is red. There is so much red. Like, I get it. It's hell. Of course everything is red. Fire and brimstone and all that. But, like, can we at least get some unique accent colors then? Like, I swear the palette for the show is almost exclusively different shades of red.
Yeah, but they did that to show, what character relates to what thing. Like, I watched, it was on on a stream last time, that the color correlates to the person singing. So, like, Adam was blue and yellow, so what they were feeling or whatever. It makes sense. It just, a lot of people didn't get it.
White and gray. When I first saw clips, I thought this was some Valentine's Day special for a cartoon I'd never seen. Like, seriously, it's so consistent that when a character has some cold colors like blue or green, they almost feel out of place. It's, like, actually shocking. The harshest contrast we see is when we see the people of heaven, whose designs are pretty much the same, but the color palette is essentially the opposite of hell's because, you know, visual storytelling and all that. It's kind of symbolism for a plot point that we'll discuss later, so I mean, it makes sense, and I don't hate it by any means, but man, can it be overwhelming at times. Now, when it comes to the actual animation itself, it felt pretty solid to me. Again, I don't know anything about what distinguishes good animation from bad animation, but I liked it. There's a clear difference between the pilot and the full show that was released on Amazon. The animation in the pilot felt much more lifelike and expressive, just all around more detailed, but of course that's easy to do when you're spending 2 years working on a single episode, and it's not something that can be realistically brought to a full-length show like this. And I don't think this affects the show much anyways, since the character designs are already so expressive on their own. Speaking of, now let's go talk about the character designs are undoubtedly
the best part of the show. They're undoubtedly the best part of the show. They're unique, and I love them. right? Can we all agree that the character designs of the show are like unbelievably imaginative?
One of my favorite parts of this show.
Absolutely.
They're what really do the heavy lifting in terms of world building and explaining the rules. There are quite a few creative decisions consistent through most of the characters that make them incredible tools for visual storytelling. When you start watching this show, they tell you absolutely nothing about the rules of hell, how it correlates to your life on Earth, what got you there, or really anything like that, but through these design choices, you begin to understand it more and more. For example, the blend of different time periods. Some characters look like archetypes of the early 20th century, some even earlier, others are clearly more modern in their designs, and you can start to get an idea of the time period that this person is from up on Earth. The details of these characters also give you hints as to what these people did up on Earth, and why they ended up in hell in the first place. I'm explaining this like it's some kind of secret clue people overlooked, but it's not. Most of these details are incredibly on the nose. I mean, look at these two and take a wild guess as to what they did up on Earth. Not to mention, most of them end up doing the same jobs in hell anyways, but in this case, I don't think it really needs to be subtle, because the designs are essentially caricatures of themselves up on Earth, and it allows for some really fun and visually interesting characters. One of my favorite examples is Alistair. They explain his backstory in the pilot, but if you started with the Amazon show, they don't explain it until like 5 episodes in, but by then, most people would have picked up on the fact that he was probably a radio DJ around the 1920s, considering his voice, attire, and microphone he carries around with him. But there's also a lot of mystery in his design, like the fact that he has these weird furry deer ears. I didn't even notice it at first until they revealed that he can transform into this weird Wendigo deer-looking creature, or these symbols that begin to appear that look like they're related to voodoo. And he's also able to use shadow jutsu, like you take all these details and you put them together in your mind and you're like, yeah, this dude had to have been super evil up on Earth. It lets you speculate, and I think that's a lot of fun. And I actually did learn his backstory in one of those YouTube shorts I was talking about. If you don't want to hear it, you can go ahead and skip, but essentially what it is he was a radio DJ in Louisiana in the 20s who was secretly a serial killer, and he would murder his victims and leave them in the woods. And I don't think this has been confirmed, but it's theorized that he was accidentally shot by a hunter while he was hiding one of these bodies in the woods, and that's how he died. So yeah, that actually does explain pretty much everything about his character design. They also do something really cool that I haven't seen before.
And I think that's highly interesting for a show's premise, that how you die, and this was explained to me numerous times in the comments, which I appreciate every single one. In fact, some of those comments are in my Discord that we talk about. Each one of those designs correlates to how they are or were on Earth when their time period is super unique, showing that, you know, how they relate in hell and what they turn into. But I think, and what I would like to see, is flashbacks. Alistair's life on Earth, Vox's life on Earth, little facts, or Carmilla's flashback on Earth, what they did and how they became the way they are. You know, maybe they're looking outside, they're talking, and there's a little flashback. I think that would be really interesting as a concept.
Or in any other shows, and that's having his normal talking voice sound as if it were coming out of an old-timey radio.
But you insisted on this noisy picture box advertisement, so I had a little fun with it.
I mean, I'm sure it has been done before, but I haven't seen it personally. And it's not consistent. It fades in and out like an actual radio, occasionally allowing you to hear his actual voice without the filter.
Oh, well, in that case, I'd be delighted to.
Humanely.
Well, that's a lot less fun.
I think it's really unique, and it adds another layer of mystery to his character. These unique design choices can be seen in the majority of the characters, like Vox, who probably is the most obvious example. Clearly, he was some kind of TV executive. His voice also has a filter, but it's much more subtle, and you can only hear it occasionally, much like you would expect a TV to sound at high volumes.
And, what's got him so out of sorts today?
Then there's Husk, who's covered in different suits from playing cards, obviously hinting at his past as a gambler. Also, if you didn't catch it, most of the names are pretty obvious references to their identities. Vox just generally sounds like something a large media company would be called, and Husk being washed up like a husk of himself. Although I gotta admit, I'm not entirely sure why he's a cat with wings, like what that has to do with anything, but hey, a lot of characters are like that. There's also Valentino, who has the most obvious pimp cosplay I've ever seen, and on top of that, his name is basically Valentine. He's also just covered in hearts, although, again, not really sure why he's a giant moth, although he does look pretty sick when they reveal it, and I suspect it has something to do with his interactions with his insect-like employee, whose past is best summarized by POV Magazine's pick for the worst job to have in the next century.
For the third year in a row,
If we are... Why Valentino is a moth? I'm probably going to get plenty of explanations in the comment, but if I had to guess, it probably has to do with something sexually, right? Like, is that a good assumption? And as for Husk having wings and being a cat, cats are really good at thieving and being, what do you call it? They're known for their 9 lives, their thievery, and logistically thinking, and I'm looking for one more. What was it? Cleverness. So I think it fits him just fine. I think it does work out plenty.
Crack whore.
And I mean, his name is Angel Dust, which I doubt I have to explain. I'm not entirely sure why he's designed like
Angel
some
Dust
weird
is
furry
cocaine.
spider, but like I said, I suspect it's some parallel with Valentino due to their super healthy business partnership. You know what, actually, I just thought of this while I was doing this narration, but it might also be because in his line of work, I guess extra arms would be pretty useful? I don't know, I'm just speculating. But his clothing, accent, and tendency to pull out Tommy guns in battle all scream connections to the mob, so I assume he was either part of or actively involved in some New York City crime family back in the 30s. Then there's Sir Pentious, whose steampunk creations and clothing definitely indicate that he was some sort of inventor during his life, although that doesn't really explain why he's in hell or why he's designed as a snake. Perhaps because he betrayed people or something. We see him attempt at a betrayal earlier on in the show, so I guess that's possible. Also, it took me an embarrassingly long time to realize that his name is actually a reference to his snake-like appearance, like Sir Pentious, Serpent, yeah, you get it. The angels and Adam all wear masks that look like they're straight out of the Purge, perhaps symbolizing the fact that they're hiding their evil intentions behind a veil of holiness. They look really cool, almost as cool as the Seraphims, who shift between a human-like appearance and a more biblically accurate one with a bunch of eyes and stuff. Even characters like Baggy with her mysterious ex that I thought was an animation error at first.
I did like that the Seraphim were biblically accurate appearance. I saw that at the beginning too, with all the eyes. I thought that was highly interesting.
Because it floats over her hair, but I ended up thinking it's a pretty cool design choice. Or even Charlie, who I guess looks like a clown, like dog thing or something. I really don't know. I don't know what they were going for with her. But there's also people like Cherry Bomb, whose 80s, 90s punk aesthetic is obvious, along with her love for explosives and arson probably being the reason she's in hell in the first place. Even Rosie, whose sharp teeth and non-threatening demeanor make her the perfect leader of Cannibal Town. I mean, after all, she does claim to have eaten her husband. Then there's Lucifer, whose character design, well, I have a lot to say about it, but I'll save the majority of it for when I talk about the character personalities and interactions later. But for now, I will say I like all the small details regarding his backstory, which of course everyone knows. Things like the apple, the snake, and the crown. And of course, if we're talking about character design, how could I forget about Nifty? But to summarize my praises for the character design, I think all of them are pretty great. They're eye-catching and creative, and each of them tell a story without words. Now with that being said, there are some things I don't like about the character design. For one, despite how unique every character is, there are a lot of specific design choices that tend to be repeated. These are the things that are most Tumblr-like to me, and I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you why. It's kind of just if you know type of thing, specifically like the large amount of characters who wear.
It definitely got Tumblr vibes. Like, I was on Tumblr forever. It has the Tumblr vibes. Especially with all the bow ties and the suits and the thin twigs and the freaking furry aspects. Like, we all know where it came from. It's not even a question. And yes, we know Vibsy Cop was on Tumblr.
Top hats. For some reason, like literally every male character in hell besides Angel Dust and Alistair wear top hats of some kind. Like you couldn't even give the pimp character an actual pimp hat. It had to be a top hat that you just threw a feather on to make it look more similar. Is it physically impossible for the male characters to wear any other form of hat? This man has a flat screen for a head and is still wearing a top hat. The only reason it's even staying on is because he put his antennas through it. And then the two characters that don't wear top hats wear bow ties, something that literally every single male character in hell wears except for Valentino. Like, aren't they supposed to all be from different time periods? Surely the bow tie has not been fashionable for that long. Okay, I actually Googled it and it has been fashionable for that long, but still, not everyone has to wear one. I don't think it's ever been fashionable. Even Sir Pentious' little egg servants have top hats on. At least they have normal ties, but still, why does every male character have to have a bow tie or a top hat or both? I think that's why I like Adam's character design so much. He doesn't have a bow tie or a top hat, but he does have something that's arguably a lot worse, and that is the cartoonishly large villain smile. Literally every villain, and some characters that aren't even villains, have this exact same smile. Like, I get it, they're demons and they're evil and they have to be kind of creepy and threatening, but my god, it literally feels like every character. Again, it's mostly the male characters, with the exception of a couple of female characters. And this is what I mean when I say these design choices are very Tumblr-esque. The top hat, the bow tie, the evil smile that's scary, but also kind of attractive. These are like the trademark of Tumblr OCs. It is kind of weird that this isn't nearly as big of an issue in the female characters, but if I had to guess, I would say this is probably just what VivziePop likes to draw male characters as. And at the end of the day, this is all just nitpicking. I mean, I just ranted forever about all the things I love about the character design. I just wish that VivziePop had given it just a little bit more effort to add just a bit more creativity to these designs. But regardless, there's still so much I love about the designs, and the small details like Alistair and Vox's voices really make it pretty great. Speaking of voices, let's talk about the The fact that this show was able to get a real budget by being picked up by A24 was a huge blessing, because they were able to hire a truly incredible cast. It's absolutely chock full of Broadway stars, and almost everyone does an amazing job. Almost everyone, but I'll talk about that in a second. Charlie is played by Erica Henningsen, and she plays the overly hyper, quirky princess role absolutely flawlessly. The moment I heard her begin singing the opening musical number, I was blown away by just how Disney princess it was.
I can do this. Somehow I know it. I'll get heaven behind my plan.
I immediately Googled if she had ever played a Disney princess, and to my surprise, she hadn't, so Disney, go ahead and get on top of that. This woman deserves it. Blake Roman absolutely kills it as Angel Dust. His over-the-top accent and overly sexual tone are just perfect.
If you're filming a commercial, can I suggest you take better advantage of the talented celebrity you have right here?
And one of the most impressive performances is from Jeremy Jordan, who plays Lucifer. His spastic line delivery.
I do think Lucifer did the best job in the show. His voice actor was phenomenal, and his singing was great. Everything, I think he was just the best character in general. He just really knocked it out of the park.
Delivery and incredibly wacky attitude are highlighted, very reminiscent of the genie from Aladdin, which is the absolute highest compliment I could pay him.
Charlie, dear, why don't you introduce me to your other friends?
And of course, I couldn't talk about the voice acting without mentioning Keith David as Husk, and I mean...
Keith David had the best singing for sure. But I still think Lucifer did the best job, but Keith David, with his one song, Loser Baby, was phenomenal.
It's Keith David. He kills it no matter what he's in. He has one of the coolest voices ever, and the deep growly tone perfectly fits his role as the washed-up bartender.
How you been, furball?
Good. Until 5 minutes ago.
All of the cast fit their roles perfectly, and they breathe life into all of these characters. The only exception to this is, ironically, one of the biggest stars on the entire cast, and that's Stephanie Beatrice, who plays Vaggie. Now, what's weird about this is I've seen Stephanie in other media.
I'm not the only one that hates Vaggie. Vaggie sucks. Just in general. He might just say the voice acting sucks for her, which was true, and her singing was not the best. But Vaggie just is bad character, who shouldn't exist in the show. And the only reason she's there is to support Charlie, who's also not a very likable character. Now, next season, yeah, I feel like they will be, but Vaggie just has a serious freaking problem.
Yeah, like I said, she's in some huge stuff. She's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Bob's Burgers, BoJack Horseman. I mean, she even played the literal main character in a Disney musical. She's clearly very...
She did a really good job in Bob's Burgers.
Very talented, and she's amazing in pretty much everything I've seen her in, which is why I think her lackluster performance in Hazbin Hotel is more due to the writing and direction she was given than any fault of her own. She's just constantly monotone and lifeless, which is clearly supposed to be a trait of her character, being more nihilistic and low energy to contrast Charlie's blinding positivity and childlike energy, and she occasionally will randomly reveal her Hispanic heritage, and because of this, alongside her disinterested attitude, I get the feeling...
Yeah, but she's not Hispanic. They made a joke about it, but she was born an angel up in heaven. She wasn't like a human become angel thing. She was just an angel, supposedly. So, it doesn't really make any sense.
That this character is kind of supposed to be Vivzy Pop's self-insert. I don't have anything.
Nope. That is an embarrassment to Vivzy Pop, because Vaggie is just an embarrassment as a character in general.
To back that up, I've never even watched an interview with her. I'm basing this purely off of vibes. The problem is that for like the first 5 episodes of the show, her lines just feel like they're coming from a robot. Like she has no emotions whatsoever. Like listen to these clips in which she's supposed to be feeling different emotions and tell me what you think.
It didn't explain anything about how we're trying to save demons from extermination, which is the whole fucking point. I know, don't worry. I enjoy your theatrics. Are you okay? How did it go? Did they listen? We can talk about it inside, or I can yell about it out here!
Man, I'm gonna break my monitor, I swear!
I genuinely think she is the only character whose voice actor I preferred in the pilot.
Not with turf wars that result in territorial genocide!
And in my opinion, her singing is just okay. Again, I think that this is more due to how the music was written and how they told her to sing than her actual ability, because in Encanto, it's very obvious that the melodies were much more catered to her strengths and she sounds great. But in Hazbin Hotel, a lot of the time it just feels like she's singing in a register that's kind of uncomfortable for her. I mean, it's not like she sounds bad, she just doesn't seem like she's on the same level as the rest of the cast. And speaking of singing, let's talk about the music. I think that without a doubt, the musical numbers are really where this show shines. Every song in the show is incredible.
I don't know. So Loser Baby was good. Poison was good. Hell's Greatest Dad was good. Stayed Gone was good. Out of Love was good. Respectless was good. I think that's it. Yeah, those are the only ones that I liked. And when I say they're all the best, Respectless is just meh. Like, it was good, but I wouldn't put it like I would want to listen to it again. Definitely would listen to Poison again, Loser Baby again, and Hell's Greatest Dad and Stayed Gone. So I would give those the top 4 choices. The rest is just underneath that. Being, you know, Respectless and Out of Love being my 2 in between for like good, then meh, and then everything was just bad after that. That's me personally. Yeah, I wouldn't even put Hell in Forever.
Incredibly well made. Every episode has 2 songs, and while some of them are definitely stronger than others, none of them are bad. The worst of the songs are just bland and relatively uninspired, but they're still very well done and progress the plot in some way. And the best of the songs are songs that I've unironically added to my playlists. They're incredibly well written, arranged, and produced, and they're some of my favorite songs from any musical, especially from a TV musical. I really have nothing to complain about with the music in this show. My only critiques are based on the writing and some of the lines in the songs, but this is more of a problem with the way the show is written overall that just carries over to the music. And at the end of this video, I'm going to do a final ranking of all the songs in the show and give my final opinion on each one. So stick around for that, or you can skip right to it if you're impatient. But now, let's talk about the most important part of the show and probably the most controversial part, So the overarching storyline of Hazbin Hotel is that hell has become overpopulated, and so to remedy this, exorcist angels come down from heaven once a year to participate in an extermination where they kill as many sinners as possible. Our main character is Charlie, the princess of hell and daughter of Lucifer, who has the idea to create a hotel where sinners can stay and rehabilitate their souls, allowing them into heaven. The first episode opens with Charlie reminiscing on the story of her mother and father, Lilith and Lucifer, and we learn that she hasn't spoken to her mother in
7 years.
We then get introduced to our main cast of characters for those that didn't watch the pilot. They establish Charlie as the well-intentioned but overly friendly and possibly misguided leader of the business, Vaggie as her blunt, no-nonsense, says whatever is on her mind counterpart, Alistair as the mysterious and powerful helper who clearly has some ulterior motives in helping with this project, Husk as the jaded, washed-up bartender who's only there because he has to be, and Angel Dust as the horniest person in all of hell. They make a couple jokes that set the tone of this show's sense of humor early on, and it's where we get our first taste of the somewhat questionable questionable writing.
Oh, I got the legs, the gag reflex, the holes.
I'll jam that bottle down your throat.
Kinky. Come on, keep talking dirty.
It's nothing.
I don't know. I think they were just trying to be funny, right? Like, I mean, it wasn't the best, but I think they're just trying to be funny.
That's totally cringeworthy yet, but most of the jokes just kind of fell flat for me. But after Charlie gets an appointment to speak with an ambassador of heaven to propose her idea, she heads to the embassy with our first musical number.
Happy day in hell.
Okay, but just don't sing to them.
That bitch is halfway down the street.
Is she?
Oh, she's dancing.
Like I said previously, it's so incredibly Disney princess coded, and the contrast between the whimsy in the song with the reality around her, while obviously not a super original idea, is pretty funny and it works well. Especially with just how well produced and sung everything is, it really succeeds in its attempt to be a Disney musical for adults.
From the porn studio where the cinephiles go to watch award-winning TV Bukkake shows.
But this song is not free from the questionable writing at times, as some of the lines from the townspeople just kind of feel like they're using sex as a punchline, and it's just not that funny in my opinion.
Got a ton of barbed wire to shove in his hole.
We then get introduced to Adam, the first man on Earth and the leader of Hell's exorcist army. He's a completely arrogant asshole who has no empathy for anybody else and essentially leads a massive harem of angels. He kind of reminds me of like a frat boy version of Jack Black, with his only interest being rocking out and hooking up with chicks. Obviously, I see what they're doing here, making the first man a representation of the negative stereotypes associated with dude bros across the nation, and I think that's pretty funny. The problem is, the way Adam is written in this scene is so over the top and ridiculous that it's not in any way believable or even likable. There's absolutely no subtlety to his douchiness, and it's so extreme that it's actually less funny than if he were just kind of a dick.
I got you again, bitch! Fucking hilarious!
It just feels very inhuman, kind of like he was written by someone whose only experience with these types of people was through, like, the guy who dies first in every Friday the 13th movie. It's just too much, and in my opinion, it makes him a lot less funny and more just obnoxious. Some of the jokes he had...
And he's absolutely right here. I think Adam is a piss-poor description of a character in the show, because there's no human being that's genuinely... Okay, let me reword this, because there's a human being that exists, I'm sure, that's like Adam. But what I am going to say is, they ain't this bad most of the time. Right? We can usually get behind the situation where they ain't this bad. This is not an accurate representation of what Adam would be like.
Are again just very eye-roll inducing, and overall I just don't like how he's written in this scene.
It's a solution to our biggest problem.
Oh, herpes. Yeah, that's a bitch.
But I will say the writing for him actually does improve a lot later on in the show, and I end up really liking his character. It's just not the greatest of introductions. I also did like the little detail they have of him eating spare ribs, you know, because it's Adam and the rib. You get it. But I can forget about all of that as soon as the musical number begins. Hell is Forever is an absolute banger where he basically tells Charlie that her plan is pointless because there is no escaping hell. Once you're down there, that's that.
Hell is forever, whether you like it or not. Have their chance to behave better, now they boil in the pot.
He also does a guitar solo by mouth, which I thought was very funny and made my Jack Black comparison feel even more accurate.
Guitar solo,
It also reveals a couple important plot details. For one, he mentions that the exterminations are entertainment for those who are participating, perhaps hinting at the idea that they're just doing it because it's fun. He also ends the song by saying that instead of returning in 1 year, the next extermination will take place in 6 months. Throughout the episode, there's a B-plot of the rest of the hotel members making a commercial, and it just further establishes the traits of these characters. Specifically, we get our first jokes that I think are really poorly written and honestly just cringeworthy.
Well, you come
Oh, yes!
to the right place.
Again, he's saying all these sex jokes are thing. I might be stupid for thinking they're funny, but I'm also the person who thought Xenoblade 2 was phenomenal and nothing should be changed about that game. So, keep that in mind.
Like seriously, this doesn't even make sense. Why would Husk pause in the middle of this sentence? And even if he did, moaning after he says come is literally something that a middle schooler would do. This kind of stuff is the reason that this show gets such a bad rap. It just feels like they were searching for a way to slip a joke in there, and they did it in the worst way possible. And if Angel had just heard me say that, I'm sure he'd say something along the lines of, you could slip something else in there, and then make that same face. See, if I can write a joke for him that even comes close to the quality of his actual jokes, then that's a huge problem. In fact, later we'll talk about a joke that I genuinely think is worse than the one I just came up with, which is incredible. But anyways, the first episode ends with a reveal that one of the angels was killed in the last extermination, something they didn't even know was possible. It hints at some kind of conspiracy from Adam, which we find out more about later in the season.
There won't be a demon left alive to pull a stunt like this again.
Episode 2 sees Charlie brainstorming ways to resolve this new time constraint, where she decides it'd be best to recruit more people since their only client is Angel Dust right now, and as he said in the previous episode, he's not exactly interested in changing.
Hey, whatever means I can keep crashing here rent-free. Crack is expensive.
We are then reintroduced to Sir Pentious, who was in the pilot, when he blows a hole in the side of the hotel looking for Alistair, who he claims to have battled with many times. Alistair totally mogs him, claiming to not even know who he is.
We've done battle like 20 times?
Well, you must have been really bad at this.
Silence!
His attempt to challenge Alistair goes about as well as we expect it to, getting turned into a literal Looney Tunes character. His incompetence as a villain and overall pathetic attempts at evil are very reminiscent of a few different characters. Specifically, the first character I thought of was Dr. Doofenshmirtz, due to the inventions, the accent, and the fact that he's very sympathetic as a villain because he's just so pathetic. I love Dr. Doofenshmirtz, so this is definitely not a criticism, it's just something I noticed. He also kind of reminds me of villains like Gru due to all the minions and everything. So during the battle, he mentions that his motivation is to get in the good graces of the V's, who we are immediately introduced to. We first meet Vox, who seems to be the head.
Oh, Dive, I'm spying on you. I see that you're here. Welcome in. Also, how you doing? And we're post this in there and make sure people have it.
Of a massive media company and is essentially mind controlling the citizens of Hell through it. He's very much your cliche, smooth talking executive who knows just what to say to manipulate people. And he is voiced absolutely perfectly by Christian Bull.
Trust us with your safety.
He meets up with Velvet, who seems to be the head of some kind of fashion line or modeling business or something. Honestly, I'm not even entirely sure what she does, but she does make a joke that is probably one of my favorites so far, which isn't saying much, but it definitely made me snicker at least.
Is it 7?
You're reacting to what show? This is, so I'm reacting to videos sent to me by either Twitch Whispers, YouTube comments. One of these was even emailed to me, which I mean, all right, people still use email, I guess. There's other ways to get me a link to a video, but, you know, that works too. But yeah, I'm taking links and then watching videos of the links. This was the last one for the day. It's like 3 hours. But yeah, here, let me give you a shout out, Dive. This is
maybe stream more of that. Eventually. I'm fucked. I'm so fucked.
Whoa, language.
I am very, very fucked.
Alright, are you?
I am terribly fucked.
Are you?
Oh, I'm good. It's all good.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm a lot of whoopee.
You were good. You were good the whole time. Not even a problem.
1950?
I'm gonna be here for about 20-ish
like the witches
minutes.
who wore it.
She tells Vox to go calm down Valentino, the third member of the V's, and the one who seems to run all of the sex work in hell. Also, they don't make it as obvious, but I'm pretty sure Valentino also has powers to control people. It seems like the smoke that he inhales from his pipe might be some kind of like love potion or something, but it definitely seems like he's controlling people to some degree. This is when we make the connection between him and Angel Dust, as we learn that Angel works for him. Valentino is very jealous of Angel Dust moving out to live with Charlie, and he makes some jokes that are, again, pretty eye-roll worthy.
Without me, he's just a bag of meat with some mildly entertaining holes.
But this introduces the dynamic between Val and...
The day is going very well. I got kicked out of Bob's Discord due to an argument me and a woman named Satan had. Long story, we disagreed on, like, she had a over-sexualized lifestyle, and I called her out on it, and apparently, like, even though I respected her for her, well, let me explain. I called her out on it because I said it was gross and disgusting, and I said, but I respect you for the work you do with your kids and the volunteering work you do. I just don't respect that one aspect of your life, you know. And supposedly she went and, I don't know, started crying or something. Anyway, that was strike 3. And my other 2 strikes was there was a picture of my feet in the feet channel. Yeah. There was a feet channel there. Bob likes feet. He really enjoys feet. And then the last one was... I sent I sent multiple people friend requests that they all accepted, and I still talk to today. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to send people friend requests, so there's 3 strikes. But, yeah, it didn't make any sense. But, so I started my own Discord channel. Started my own Discord that people can join, and then come sit with me and talk to me. Yep. And but don't worry, like me and Bob are still super great friends. You know, we're still DM, we still talk. Sucks, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it took me a super long time, but luckily I had multiple people help me with it, like Luna and such, help me set up the Discord server. But yeah.
Vox, with Val being the unpredictable psychopath and Vox being the cool and calculated one that's there to keep him in check. Val mentions that the radio demon, aka Alistair, is also living with Charlie, and this gets Vox's attention. We learn that they have some kind of history, but we don't know exactly what happened, although we can presume what happened considering it's kind of the radio versus TV matchup that's like a tale as old as time or whatever. All we really know is that before this, Alistair had been missing for 7 years, and this leads us into Vox's...
Yeah, well, Alistair and Lilith were both missing for 7 years. So we all know that Alistair is on Lilith's leash in the show. It's pretty much confirmed. But yeah.
musical number, which is another great one. It absolutely nails the Disney villain introduction sound, with Vox claiming that he's gonna make Alistair wish that he had never come back.
Welcome home. I'm gonna make you wish that you'd stayed gone.
It then transitions into a kind of like rap song that I guess I would best describe as having a schizophrenic flow.
Well, Handley, I've got good news. He's a loser, a fossil, and I don't mean to sound hostile, but the demon is a coward!
But he's just tearing into Alistair the whole time, who eventually hijacks the song and starts dissing him back.
Instead of a cloud-chasing, mediocre video podcast.
Some more interesting plot points are revealed, like how Alistair claims Vox is nothing without the other Vs, and that Vox asked him to join them in the past, but he rejected them, and Vox held a grudge about it ever since. By the end, Alistair is reprising the intro of the song, but telling Vox that he's gonna wish that he had never returned, and we see him beginning to transform into his scary deer form for the first time.
I'm gonna make you wish that I'd stayed gone. Oh, this will be fun.
I love this sequence because it...
Yeah, this is a whole show pathetic jokes review, it seems. Wait, this is a whole show. Pathetic jokes review, it seems. I don't know how to respond to that comment. I don't know how to respond to that comment. Although I did think Stayed Gone was very good. I thought that was one of the better songs in the show. Probably my fourth favorite song. No, it would be my third. I would say Hell's Greatest Dad would be number 4.
Looks super good, and the music really helps set the atmosphere perfectly. It's genuinely creepy, and like I said, this was the moment that I realized that Alistair was something different. And based on Vox's reaction, I'd say I'm correct in that assessment. I also just love the visuals for this entire musical number. I love how they go through the different TV stations essentially with Vox playing all the characters. It's very visually interesting and it's just all around great. So the V's decide to use Sir Pentious as a spy, and Charlie's forgiving and kind nature makes her unable to turn him away, despite Angel's logical protests.
This chump was trying to kill us like literally 6 hours ago.
They do some group activities, including acting out a scene where Sir Pentious isn't peer pressured by Angel to use drugs. Again, the writing is nothing particularly hilarious or anything, but Sir Pentious's costume alongside Angel's delivery of his lines really sells it, and I ended up liking this scene all around.
Come on, kid. It'll make you cool like me. The crackhead.
We also get our first hint that Angel might actually care about changing, since he's upset after they all praise Sir Pentious. It's kind of weird for him to be upset about this, considering he has literally shown no willingness to change at all, but I think that's more of a critique I have with the pacing of this show that I'll talk about later. Angel ends up finding Pentious putting a spy cam up and confronts him. He randomly calls Angel what I can only assume is a slur for furry spider people in hell.
Oh, bug.
And they get into a scuffle before he puts Angel under a genjutsu. He tries to call Vox for backup, but instead Vox just tells him to kill himself. Charlie gives him a second chance, and they sing a song about forgiveness and saying sorry.
It'll take time to cover my vast multitude of sins.
One of the more forgettable songs in the show and a little corny, but I still liked it. So after that, we move on to episodes. Not gonna lie, episode 3 is probably the worst one in my opinion, and a big part of that is the fact that
I think a little corny, he said. Yeah. I think episode 3 is definitely the worst one. I agree here wholeheartedly. I think 3 sucks.
Cringe writing is most prevalent in this episode. It starts off pretty strong with Pentious getting settled in, and he says something that is really funny to me for no particular reason.
Oh, hello, purple female.
Vaggie tells him that he has to get rid of his minions, and she gives the task to Alistair, who's eating his gross breakfast to further emphasize how mysterious and creepy he is. So as Pentious is forced to part way with the eggs, we get a very predictable joke with him doing the whole dramatic go on without me thing, while the eggs leave with absolutely no emotion. And see, that's another problem with the show, is that a lot of the jokes that aren't cringeworthy in this show end up being stuff like this. It's just very, safe and predictable. So they decide to try trust exercises, and Charlie encourages Vaggie to take the lead on this one. She goes for the drill sergeant approach, but like I mentioned, she has no emotion in her voice, so it just sounds like she's trying.
Well, that's because Vaggie doesn't exist as a character, right? She's not a character. She's a nothing. And no one can convince me that she's anything other than a part to make Charlie's character slightly better, so when Charlie does get better in other seasons, she'll have something to do again. Vaggie shouldn't have even existed in this show. Because she didn't do anything other than just fill time. I thought Vaggie was just bad.
To yell without actually yelling, I don't know, it's really weird.
All right, so we are starting with trust falls. Each of you are going to share something.
All right, so we are starting with trust falls. Each of you is going to share something vulnerable. So Angel Dust goes up to share something vulnerable, and he makes what is, in my opinion, the least funny and most cringeworthy joke in the entire show. I'll just go ahead and play the whole scene.
I love to suck.
I swear to if you say dicks.
Popsicles, you sicko. Get your mind out of the gutter. But you know, dicks too.
Wow, funny.
Popsicles, you sicko. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Wow. Language? You're gonna make a joke every time. That wasn't me. I didn't say anything. That was the video. I didn't do that. That wasn't me. Also, you started it. I just don't like cursing, that's all. I was never a fan of it.
I mean, this clip...
I thought it was pretty funny. Like, I thought the sex jokes were pretty funny in the show. I'm not gonna lie. Okay? I thought they were good. You're on the internet? Yeah, but see, I don't even curse in normal life. Like, I just don't curse. I just don't see a purpose in it. You know, I like run a support group for a lot of like people with depression and stuff, and they have issues where it brings trauma up when they hear curse words or something for a lot of people. So I just realized that I just don't do it. I just stopped altogether. I found there was no need and it only hurt people and brought their problems back. So that's why I don't.
Is just everything that's wrong with the writing in this show. The excessive swearing, the unoriginal writing, sex being the punchline, it's literally everything. What's crazy is that there are so many ways you could have done a joke like this and have at least part of it be kind of funny, but it's like they tried to make this joke as unfunny as possible. Like, really? I like to suck popsicles. That's the best thing you could come up with. It doesn't even make sense. Why would you say that in any context? And how is that sharing something vulnerable? They literally just thought, what do people suck? And they picked the first thing that came to mind. And then following it up with the most predictable punchline that literally a 10-year-old...
If they were saying the thing they suck the most with, it would be lollipops. Someone call Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne would have told you it's lollipops. This is... The joke is because Lil Wayne had a song about women sucking his lollipop. That's why it was funny.
Could have predicted. Like, seriously, it's just so bad. I'll show you how they could have made this joke at least a tiny bit better.
I love to suck.
I swear to if you say dicks.
Seed in any endeavor I undertake.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
Okay, maybe it's not actually that much better. It still kind of sucks, but at least it's a little more creative and not literally the first thing anyone would think of with that setup. The same issue is present when Nifty does hers. I didn't mention it, but they set up Nifty's character as being like a mysterious weirdo who's like clinically insane. So her confession is that she kills mother bugs in front of their children as a warning, which is kind of funny. Again, not incredibly original or anything, but it fits her character. And when she does her trust fall, no one catches her because they're weirded out. All of that's fine, and I found it relatively funny, but because she's so crazy, this is how she reacts to hitting the ground.
Yay, pain! Pain.
I don't know if this is really...
Again, it's just like, this is the first thing any...
How else would you describe her as a psychopath without her wanting pain? Right? Recent? I didn't even know you could do that. What the frick? You can look at what Pokemon were around?
Anyone would come up with in this situation. How can we reiterate that she's crazy? She likes pain and she does it intentionally. Like, come on, did Vivzy Pop have no help in writing this? I refuse to believe there are professional writers that worked on this show and came up with this. Hi, Editor Blooms here. I just wanted to sneak in and say I googled it because I was curious as to who wrote this episode, and as it turns out, Vivzy Pop didn't write this episode at all, which is like really weird. Maybe it's, I don't know how that could have happened, but yeah, I figured I'd mention.
Yeah, but I've never seen Recent do it like that. Well, that's because I have Pokey Infobot on here, as well as Pokemon Community Game. It's a coinciding thing. Pokey Infobot is uber cool, though. I love it. I do highly recommend it. For anyone's stream. Oh, you got the extra thing.
Mention it. This whole scene is really just the epitome of the criticism people have of the way this show is written. It just feels flat out bad sometimes. Anyways, Alistair decides to go to a meeting for Hell's overlords. I didn't mention it earlier, but him and the V's are all overlords of Hell, meaning they like own people's souls and that kind of stuff. On the way, he meets up with Zeshtul, another overlord who has a super cool character design and voice. You can immediately tell by his old English that he's been in Hell a very long time, and I love how mysterious he feels.
Some have spun wild tales of you falling to holy arms.
At the meeting, we see a bunch of other overlords, as well as the person putting the meeting together. Her name's Camilla, and she's Hell's biggest arms dealer. She has a pretty funny moment by crushing Alistair's ego right when the meeting starts.
Yes, I know. I've been absent some time. I'm sure you've all been wondering.
Not really.
Velvet, the fashion designer person from the V's, busts in.
Okay, right here. This is how you know that we're talking about Tumblr, okay? Fizzypops from Tumblr. There's a furry, all right? That's a demon. That's a furry. No one can convince me otherwise that she just wrote a Hellhound boss thing furry. She's from Tumblr. We all know this. They talked about it earlier in the video. This is confirmation. We can put it to rest now.
Very late and arrogantly, and acts like she's way too important for all of this before revealing that she's found a dead angel. This is the first time that this has happened as far as everyone knows, and Velvet says that they need to fight back against the angels. The older, more experienced overlords are not exactly keen on that idea, and she keeps dissing Zeshtul for being too scared to fight, which leads to a jump scare song.
You better show some respect.
This is another great song as Camilla and Velvet go back and forth arguing about what they should do. Velvet is very modern, clearly supposed to be the youngest one there, and her song contains a bunch of internet lingo to emphasize this. This was surprisingly not cringe, and I thought it was actually pretty well done. Obviously, there were a couple lines that I kind of rolled my eyes at, like when she said,
But I'm that hashtag bitch, and I will do nothing less than what I please. Woo!
Obviously, that's a little out of date, but it wasn't too bad. It at least didn't feel like it was some boomer writer trying to relate to kids. It felt like how someone in their mid to late 20s might actually talk nowadays. So at the very least, they were able to get that right.
Hey, Dive. Did you think that was cringe? Because I thought it was pretty cringe. I don't think anyone is like hashtag anything anymore. I don't think we hashtag anything. I don't think there was a point that we said hashtag something without it being on like Twitter. Wait, he didn't show us the song. He showed us the part he liked least.
And on top of that,
well, that's so Dive. I did a reaction. Like there's a video of me reacting to every single episode on my YouTube channel. I've heard all the songs so far, right? And that's why this video was recommended to me and sent a link. This one here talking about it is because my YouTube channel has me reacting to the show. I don't even know this show. Oh, that would explain. Yeah. Basically, the premise is there's a hotel. How did I get here? Okay. Let's explain. What year is it? Let me explain. So basically, the show is about sinners in hell trying to be redeemed for going to a hotel, and they go to the hotel and they try to become good people so they get into heaven. That's it. That's the premise of the show. I'm a cat. You're a cat. Yes. 1/4 answered good. I think we got it.
This is one of the catchiest songs from the show. At the end, Velvet also implies that it may have been Camilla who killed the angel.
You have a disclosure. This meeting's over.
That was a productive meeting.
The meeting is ended after this, and we follow Camilla, who confirms to Zeshtul that she did in fact kill the angel. We then get a song that's another
No, we're not watching the show. I already watched the show. We're watching a man talk about his experiences with the show because this was a video requested of me to then share my opinions over his opinion.
pretty forgettable one in my opinion. It's a duet between Camilla and Vaggie because they're both fighting for people they care about. Musically, it's kind of like a grand rock song, like almost My Chemical Romance-esque, but the performances aren't remarkable from either of them in my opinion.
I like how everyone is red.
Oh, and also they have a bunch of weird pirate imagery with Vaggie, I guess just because she's...
Surprised there's no porn on that furry in the back. Dude, you have... What? That's it. Hold on. We're talking about the internet. Wait, what is that girl's... Overlords, Hell, Hazbin. Let's see, hold on. Hold the phone. What is that person's name? We're talking about Wolf. What was the name of that person? Overlords. Zestral, Velvet, Fox, Rosie, ZZ? Is her name ZZ? Hold on. Okay, yep. So it's ZZ. Alright, we're looking up Rule 34 ZZ right now. Has been hotel. Let's see. Is there porn of it? Oh boy. We got 2 pages of porn. We got furry porn. We got it right here. It's right here. Yay. Well, there's an NSFW portion of our in our chat, in our Discord. So because I'm going to get rid of this, I'm not going to continue looking at this. I am going to post one of the pictures there so we can all know. We can experience it. So if you're in my Discord, you can look at one of the furry porn pictures. There's ZZ in Velvet. There we go. Congratulations. It's in the Discord now. You clipped it? Oh, that would be so funny.
It's like missing an eye, but I like to imagine...
I just saw it. Yeah, I know. Pretty crazy. It exists. That's Rule 34. If it exists, there's porn of it. Come on, we all know that. What are we doing?
It's because she was either a literal pirate during her life, like this quiet emo girl sailing the high seas and swashbuckling is just pretty hilarious to me, or that she was sent to hell for like illegally downloading movies. Either way, it's pretty funny to imagine. They decide to let Angel lead one of the trust building exercises, and of course, his idea is to do BDSM, like who could have seen that coming? Although there was one funny moment when they show the always grumpy Husk actually enjoying getting a massage.
Get it? Coming. Funny joke. It's almost as funny as the show.
I don't hate this.
Also, the more of these characters I see, I have to ask, was Vivzy Pop like a furry artist? I don't care, but like...
She was a furry artist. She was. Her early designs was her doing furries on Tumblr. And you know how I know that? YouTube comments told me. Thank you, YouTube. I really appreciate that. I love you guys.
She's really... she has a very specific image that she draws when it comes to these animal characters, I'm just saying. Then Vaggie decides to take them to a battlefield for some trust building, which is some early foreshadowing, and it actually kind of works. But that's pretty much the end of the episode, and we move on to episode 4.
Episode 4.
Episode 4 is a
Episode 4 is the best one. Literally best one. He loves those guys more than us. He just said it live. You better keep that porn bit in the video. Oh, the porn bit's staying in the video. I'm not cutting. I'm not cutting anything out. This is a reaction. I've only cut. I had to cut one video or blur one part. But yeah, nothing's getting cut. And I don't love those guys more than us. What are you
Massive
talking
turning
about?
point for this show. The difference between the first 3 episodes and the rest of the show is totally night and day. Up to this episode, I enjoyed what I was watching and was interested in the plot, but I wasn't hooked. After episode 4, I was all in. In my opinion, this is either the best or second best episode in the series. It starts off with Angel showing some of his work for show and tell and making everyone super uncomfortable. A funny gag they do here is they do a cold open where they show Angel in the video, but we don't realize it's a video until they zoom out and show everyone watching it, so it seems like some weird messed up situation. But one thing I hate about watching this on Amazon Prime is that if you have the captions on, it literally spoils this gag because it tells you that they're actors. I don't know why it does that, but anyways. It freaks everyone out except for Husk, who's rather unfazed, critiquing the writing and dialogue. Now that's kind of ironic, isn't it? Now, up to this point, they've built a dynamic between Angel and Husk where Angel does his typical sexual harassment routine to him, and Husk doesn't entertain it at all and is clearly very annoyed by it. Angel is offended by Husk's remarks, which leads to Husk psychoanalyzing everyone in the hotel and accusing Angel of putting on a facade, that he's not really like this deep inside. Angel is then called into work by Valentino, and despite Charlie trying to stop him, he goes anyways. During the shoot, Charlie shows up to try to convince Valentino to let Angel spend more time at the hotel. Angel is absolutely freaking out about this and tries his best to get Charlie to leave, and you can sense that he's genuinely afraid of Val.
First, you gotta go.
Ah, Your Majesty.
This just kind of confirms their toxic relationship that was hinted at in a previous episode, and if that wasn't enough, the upcoming events will definitely solidify it. Oh yeah, bit of a warning, we're gonna talk about some pretty explicit depictions of abuse and sexual assault, including real life ones, so if you can't handle that, I highly recommend you skip this part, okay? So Val introduces himself in the creepiest way possible, and when he learns that it's about Angel, he gives him a look that says more than any words could have. Charlie's clumsiness leads to her almost burning down the entire set, which makes Valentino rather upset. Angel looks utterly horrified, and it's no wonder why, as we get this absolutely terrifying shot of Valentino. This is incredibly well done and probably one of my favorite shots from the whole show. We also get the reveal that he's like a moth thing, which again, I don't really know why, but it looks really cool. Val then takes Angel back to the dressing room where he violently assaults him while accusing Angel of bringing Charlie to help him. There's no background music.
Is assault like a slur word or something? Are we not allowed to say assault? Is that something we don't do? Is that a bad word? Not a no-no word?
Music or anything, just the sound of the impacts, Angel's pleads, and Valentino's voice.
I'm sorry,
You bring her here to protect you.
School bells are ringing. It's time to get the perfect phone plan for your kids and have
Okay.
With me?
Yeah, I don't know.
This scene is incredibly effective in portraying this.
Holy crap. Prayson. You have no idea. Someone called me out the other day, okay? And said I said a slur word at them. That I said that they were obese. And they said that I was slurring at them. And I said, no, you just have a medical condition. There's nothing wrong with that. I just said you're obese. Just a very large person. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I wasn't trying to offend her.
Abusive dynamic. The performance from Joel Perez as Valentino is incredible. The way in which he speaks is downright haunting, and the entire scene is so uncomfortable. And I think they did a good job of building this up. Over the course of the first few episodes, I really began to like Angel Dust, despite how cringe he can be at times. He just has something about him that's kind of endearing. I mean, you can tell he's a broken person who deep inside wants to be better, which is why this scene is so effective. It's just a punch in the gut to see this, especially in a show that has had pretty much no serious moments at all leading up to this. It catches you so off guard, and it makes the viewer feel helpless, like there's nothing that they can do, but all they want to do is try to help. It is so real, and I love how they make Val like 10 feet tall. The way he just towers over Angel at all times makes this scene feel even more suffocating. We also learned that Angel sold his soul for this. He's in a contract with Val, so in a way that's much more literal than a real-life abusive relationship, there is no escape. When Charlie sees what's going on, she attempts to intervene, but Angel stops her. He pleads with her to just leave him alone because she's making everything worse. This was the perfect way to end this scene, and again, it's incredibly realistic. In abusive relationships, it's very common for victims to push away any potential for help, essentially defending their abuser because they know that it will only lead to more abuse. It's incredibly dark, and it really gives you an insight into the trauma that Angel is grappling with on a daily basis. After this, we get a musical number, which is extremely reminiscent of like old school Kesha or just that style of pop music in general. The song itself is discussing the poisonous effect that this relationship has on him and how it will be the
old school pop is the best, right? Like, I love Katy Perry and Britney Spears. Okay, I'm gonna admit it. And that's probably why Poison is like one of my favorite songs. The little name is Poison. It's because it's good. Old pop music is good. Give me the 2000s pop back. Where's Kanye West? What happened? Is he yeezing around now? Is he Yeezy? Give him back. Where is he? Oh, wait, he's on the Alex Jones show. I forgot. What are you doing? What are you doing? Where'd you go? Thought you were making Poison. You're banned for saying Yeezy. That's his name. His name's Yee.
cause of his eventual demise. It's animated like a music video, with Angel Dust first snapping into character before being forced through many different scenes, getting more and more violent as it continues. I see this not only as a representation of his literal situation, but also kind of a commentary on what many people in show business suffer through in general. All of the major industries, whether it be actors, musicians, or obviously adult film stars, these people are constantly being taken advantage of and abused in different ways, mentally, physically, and socially. Obviously, the adult industry is
we recently watched a video on a porn star that lives, like, she was super popular, she made a lot of money, and now she lives underneath the streets of Vegas. Like, she's homeless in a crack den. She was doing, like, heroin. She was doing heroin and just lives underneath Vegas because no one took her seriously anymore. Lost all her money and everything. And a horrible life. That was we recently reacted to a video based on that. It was pretty interesting.
Probably the worst when it comes to this, but the sequence reminds me a lot of pop stars like Britney Spears or the aforementioned Kesha, or even today with K-pop stars, the way that they're just abused and used for the purposes of a big label. I also love the ending when the facade begins to...
Yeah, but they were really good. The difference is Britney Spears, Kesha, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga were really good. They did a good job.
Break down and you hear his voice break.
Like, have you seen Lady Gaga's telephone video? Like, I showed my niece that the other day, and I said they don't make videos like this anymore. They just don't do it. They don't write a story or nothing.
And the lyrics get even darker. Again, it's the performance by Blake Roman that really sells this, and it's probably the best way this song could have closed out.
Poison, I'm sick of the poison. Wish I had something to live for tomorrow.
Let them cook. Me, on the other hand, will be keeping cool this summer with 20% off all orders.
Of the tweets I initially saw criticizing this show, one of the biggest criticisms I saw of this sequence is that it's glorifying this toxic abuse dynamic, and here's why that's dumb. I think a lot of people nowadays confuse portraying something on screen with glorifying it. Just because they portrayed an abusive relationship in an accurate way.
It close out to a sunbathing man. Yeah, that sounds about right.
way does not mean it's being glorified. This whole sequence is terrifying and disturbing. They're not romanticizing it in any way, it's just real. Now with the music video, I could see how people might think that that's glorifying the topic a bit, but again, this is the type of lifestyle people in these situations actually live. And the whole point is that Angel doesn't actually enjoy any of this. He's just doing what he has to do to survive. You see him put a character on at the very beginning just so he can even survive the shoot, and how at the very end this character breaks down and we see his real feelings. This behavior is self-destructive. The lyrics of the song literally spell it out. In my opinion, there's nothing being glorified here. It's just an accurate portrayal of some terrible things. When I see this, all I see is someone that is being taken advantage of and tortured by everyone around them on a regular basis. And if that's what you consider glorification, I think that says a lot more about you than anything.
In real life, it does.
Sorry, I got a little carried away on that rant. Let's go back to the show. So Angel goes back to the hotel after work and immediately snaps back into character when ordering a drink.
You look like shit.
Not possible.
Husk then drops some wisdom on Angel.
Look, if you got a problem, you're not going to find the solution at the bottom of a bottle. I should know, I've been looking there a long time.
But after the day he's had, he'd rather not be lectured to. Instead, he sticks to the old reliable sexual harassment Riz, which causes Husk to go off on him, calling him fake. This really pisses him off. You know, I like this little reveal that those are actually eyes. I always assumed they were freckles and just a weird character design, but I actually like that. I think it's cool. Anyways, so then Angel uses some incel logic, claiming that he's worth too much for him and that he'd be lucky to get with him. Of course, this is in Star...
That is like an incel logic thing right there. But we all know, like, the whole show has incel logic, so come on.
Stark contrast to what we actually know about Angel, considering he has quite literally no self-worth and clearly hates himself. But he storms out and Vaggie sends Husk after him. Husk finds him at a bar where he sees one of the people he's with slip something in his drink. I do find it funny how they feel the need to show the attempted date rape of someone through a Tom and Jerry style poison explosion with smoke effects. It felt a little weird considering how serious of a subject matter it is, but I guess it's just kind of the art style of this show. Anyways, Husk rescues Angel with some badass moves that we hadn't seen from him up to this point, but Angel clearly doesn't want to go with him. We then get a really good scene from the two of them, where Angel admits to knowing that his drink was spiked and still refusing help from anyone else. Husk continues to accuse Angel of being self-destructive and putting on an act. This causes Angel to snap and actually speak genuinely for the first time. He discusses the necessity of the way he acts, that it's the only way he knows how to cope with all the trauma he's been through.
It's not an act! It's who I need to be! Where I can forget about it all, how much I hate everything.
His hypersexual nature is his way of taking back at least some control with these factors that are out of his control. Basically, if I embrace what's happening to me, then it doesn't hurt as bad. This type of coping unfortunately only puts him in more situations where he's likely to be abused or taken advantage of. But at the same time, a part of him wants it like that because he wants to self-destruct. As he puts it,
and maybe if I end up broken, I won't be his favorite toy anymore. And maybe he'll let me go.
when I first watched this episode, I was totally blown away by this scene. The accuracy of this is incredible. As I've mentioned, I work as a nurse in a psychiatric unit, and I talk to patients almost every day that...
Did he mention that before? That he was a nurse at a psychiatric unit? I don't remember that. I don't remember him ever saying that.
Have long histories of all types of abuse. These self-destructive tendencies have been present in almost every single victim I've spoken to. It's honestly
it's true. Almost every victim I've spoken to says the same thing. It's true. In another video, yeah, I would say so. But everyone that I've spoken with that, like, in a manner that I need to discuss, let's say Claire... How do I put this without saying anything? Basically, what he's saying is true. Almost everyone has the same sort of manner here, where they're rather self-destruct because of the abuse they had. Let that be cutting themselves or anything. Any way to deal with coping and trauma.
Incredible to see just how consistent the correlation is between these behaviors and a history of abuse. A lot of people aren't even consciously aware that it's what they're doing, and yet when you point it out to them, they immediately recognize it as the truth. But like Angel, some of them are able to recognize why they do this. One of the cases I dealt with that really got to me was a woman who had covered her face in tattoos. She discussed how she had gotten the tattoos after a history of SA, claiming to have gotten them to make her uglier in the hopes that it would deter her abuser. I mean, after hearing this story, the way I viewed topics of this nature was permanently altered. It just goes to show how abuse and trauma quite literally destroys people's lives in a way that isn't even comprehensible to people who haven't experienced it. And I know it feels kind of silly to compare such a serious real-world case to a show about dick jokes, but I only bring it up to show that the mindset that Angel has is real, and it's one of the reasons I appreciate this scene so much. Following Angel's reveal of his true feelings, Husk then shares his own story, discussing how he was once a powerful overlord in hell, but his gambling addiction led him to going all in and losing his soul to Alistair, hence why he's stuck being a bartender in the hotel. This is followed by a musical number in which he calls Angel a loser, accusing him of being at rock bottom and taking pity on him.
You're a loser, baby, a loser.
Dude, Kevin is so good at singing. Loser Baby is definitely the second best song in the show, if not the best one. He just did such a good job.
Goddamn baby.
At first, Angel is obviously offended by this, but as the song continues, we begin to get a better understanding of what Husk is saying.
We're both losers, baby, we're losers. It's okay to be
He mentions how he had felt alone in his trauma, like no one could relate to him, but he learned that by letting his walls down and talking about it, he wasn't alone. Angel reluctantly joins in by sharing some of his own trauma, and in doing so, Husk begins to sing about how they're both losers, and that's okay. So with this, I can finally reveal that this is the song that I saw on Twitter that convinced me to watch this show in the first place, and I saw it posted by someone who claimed that the writing here is bad because Husk is equating his own experience to angel dust, and by doing so, he's invalidating his sexual trauma. And normally I try to avoid saying things like, you don't understand the message behind this, and instead I say things like, I understand why people might think this, but in reality it's something else, because it always feels so pretentious and condescending to be like, you're wrong and I'm right. But based on how I saw people so violently hating on this scene, I feel comfortable saying to all of those people, if you think that this is invalidating a sexual abuse victim, you are wrong and you didn't understand the message. And now I will do what no one on Twitter knows how to do and explain my reasoning for this claim. This song is not Husk saying, wow, you got sex.
Oh my goodness, a man on the internet is defending his point in the video. Oh, it's almost like it's a person on the internet. He's gonna defend his objective. We don't need a defense. We heard your opinion. I agree with your opinion. But even if you defend it, other people are made to agree. They already are going to disagree or agree, and we don't want to hear it.
What a loser.
Hi, I'm
Oh, it's
Premium
Ryan
Wireless,
Reynolds!
$15 a month
Ryan!
at Mint Mobile. When I premium wireless for $15 a month...
This is... Okay. This song is a statement of the importance of camaraderie between two broken people. At this point, as Husk says, Angel is feeling totally hopeless, backed into a corner, unable to face the world sober, and there's nothing he can do about it. And Husk calls him a loser as a way to show that, unfortunately, all of that is true. He's not willing to lie to Angel and tell him that he'll be okay and everything is fine, because it's not. Instead, he's pointing out the obvious. You sold your soul to your abuser. You can't live being sober. Every waking minute you hate yourself and everything around you. You are literally in hell. You've lost. This is as rock bottom as anyone could possibly get. You are quite literally the definition of a loser. Which is harsh, but it's the truth. Angel's offended because he thinks Husk is just making fun of him, but then Husk mentions how in the past he felt alone facing his own trauma, like no one else understood what he was facing. But after letting his walls down and opening up, he realized that there were others who understood the way he felt, and he found comfort in that. So when he says that angel dust isn't unique for selling his soul to a psychopath, he's not invalidating him, he's embracing him. He did the same thing. He sold his soul to a psychopath. This follows up with another chorus, but this time he sings that they're both losers, and that's okay. By admitting to being a loser, he's letting those metaphorical walls down, acknowledging the reality of the situation. He's at rock bottom, and there's nothing he can do about it. So at the very least, he can find a companion in someone else like him, even though they've taken very...
Is there people that didn't get the gist of the song? Like, was this necessary? Was it necessary for you to go in and explain the song? Like, I guess his point is people did misunderstand it on Twitter, right? Well, what do we know about Twitter? What do I say over and over again? Comments on Twitter are usually morons, and you can't take it seriously because they're morons, right? They're not normal people. It's morons. Twitter people are idiots. Similar, yeah. I would say most people on Twitter are probably morons. That's just how the world runs. We do need Twitter. There's a lot of people on Twitter. Okay? It is like the space where you show your development. You know, you have something you want to share, you share it on Twitter. But you got to remember that the comments on Twitter are not going to like you. That's just how it works, because they just don't know how the real world is.
Different paths in life that led them to this point, and their trauma is different, and you could even argue that Angel's trauma was worse than Husk's, but at the end of the day, they ended up in the same place, stuck, suffering, and broken. But Husk has realized that if they stick together, maybe it won't be as bad. Angel finally realizes what Husk is getting at and begins to let his own walls down, acknowledging that he's a loser, but at least he's not alone. As the song continues, it becomes a duet, and they acknowledge the things that led them to this point, but continue to be hopeful of the future. They're losers, but if they have each other as support, maybe one day they won't be.
A loser, but just maybe if we eat shit together, things will end up differently.
It ends with Husk saying to embrace who you are and cut yourself some slack. Now, personally, I thought all of this was very obvious. In fact, I realized most of this when I watched the music video on Twitter the first time, despite not having any of the context for who these characters were or their past. And now that I do know the context, it only makes even more sense. So I don't know how so many people on Twitter totally misunderstood this entire episode, although I suspect it's a case of intentional ignorance to validate their hatred of this show, because for some reason, Twitter really hates this show and Vivzy Pop.
They hate Vivzy Pops because of all the controversy she's been in. Twitter hates the show because there's a bunch of gay people in it, and it's LGBT, and people are tired of hearing about it. And they're morons. And that's why they don't understand the song. Wow. I solved it. I did it. I gave you all 3 answers. It took me like 12 seconds.
But this song is absolutely incredible. Keith David's voice is so smooth and pleasant. It's the catchiest song in the whole show, and it has some of my favorite moments artistically, with the bright neon signs at the end and that whole vibe. Like I said, I'll talk about it more in the ranking part of this video, but for now, I'll just say it's one of my favorites. After their musical number, they fight side by side against the sharks from the bar, and we get to see some of Husk's badass gambling weapons and Angel's Tommy guns. But now that Angel has finally opened up to Husk, he sees Angel for who he really is, and it's the start of a wonderful friendship. But yeah, spoiler alert, this is easily the best episode in the show for me, and 2 of the best songs in the show on top of that. The dynamic between Angel and Husk in this episode is where it shines the strongest. Both of their characters are super interesting, and to see the way their dynamic shifts from hostile to best friends in a way that didn't feel forced at all was perfect. Angel's dynamic with Val was absolutely brutal and really hard to watch at times, but it felt so genuine and real that I just can't help but admire how well done it is. Getting to know Angel and Husk a little better completely recontextualizes both of their characters and allowed them to jump straight to the top of my list of favorite characters at this point. And the writing was shockingly good, especially coming off the previous episode, which was probably the worst. I think a big part of this is the fact that there wasn't many attempts at humor in this episode. Outside of like the first 3 minutes, I can't even really remember any jokes. The only exception is in Loser Baby, which still has a couple of those moments of cringe sex humor, which I just kind of try to pretend aren't there whenever I listen to it, but other than that, this episode is nearly perfect. It's a showcase in what this show is.
I like sex humor. I'm gonna say it over and over again. Sex humor is funny. Okay, I'm like 5 years old, but it's funny.
Actually capable of when it's willing to step out of its comfort zone of horny cringe humor. But like I mentioned, this is the turning point for the show. From this point on, it really feels like a different show. So now, let's go on to episode 4.
You're a better dude than I gave you credit for.
Hey, listen, that wasn't me trying to...
Charlie is beginning to realize that she's running out of time, and Vaggie suggests taking some more drastic measures.
It's time to ask.
Don't say it!
Your dad.
So we finally get the reveal of Lucifer, the king of hell, the root of all evil, and he's not exactly what I was expecting.
The magic-tastical, back-flipping rubber duck!
He's very I guess high-strung would be the right word. Kinda all over the place, very quirky and goofy. He definitely feels like a dad. But I think the most important part of his character is that he's a deadbeat. He's not exactly involved in his daughter's life and doesn't even know where she is or what she's doing.
Where are you these days?
You can tell that he's regretful of this, but at the same time, he's hardly willing to put in any extra effort to be a good father. This is an interesting dynamic because up to this point, we really haven't gotten much from Charlie's character, so now that her father's here, we'll get to see her develop some more. Now, when it comes to Lucifer himself, I still don't know how I feel about his character. I get why he's this way. His awkward, frantic demeanor and short stature is in stark contrast to what you would expect from the literal devil. It subverts expectations for comedy's sake. Perhaps a little bit more South Park inspiration there, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I can't help but feel like I wish he was at least a little cooler. Like, he just feels borderline pathetic at times, which should never be the case with the most powerful character in a show. Later on, he has some cool moments where he shows his power, but it feels almost out of character at that point. I don't know, I like his character regardless. Jeremy Jordan absolutely crushes the role and he's well written. I just wish he wasn't so, like, twerpy is all. I don't know. And please don't take this the wrong way, I mean this genuinely. Is he supposed to be autistic? Because I genuinely feel like that's what they were going for. Like, the whole obsession with the ducks is like very much special interest kind of thing, and the way he's just so incredibly awkward and doesn't really understand social cues and stuff. I don't know. I just got that vibe, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. That's just how I feel, so. But anyways, he stops by the hotel to see Charlie, where Alistair is very standoffish with him because Alistair has such a big ego that he's willing to be passive-aggressive to the dude he knows is significantly more powerful than him.
You are much shorter in real life.
Who is this? Who is this man? Are you the bellhop?
But at this point, I assume he sees Lucifer as a threat, since it's clear that he wants to use and manipulate Charlie for whatever he has planned, and he doesn't want a father figure to get in the way of.
Damn, I wanted to watch anime. W Lucifer? Absolutely. I thought Lucifer was awesome in this show. Lucifer was amazing. I thought he was so funny and everything. He definitely is the best character on the show, no question. It was hysterical. You wanted to watch an anime? What anime were you watching?
That. So things almost get out of hand there for a second, but Charlie reels it back in. She introduces the rest of the gang, and they all respond exactly as you'd expect their character to respond. But like I said, it seems like the writing is much better. None of their jokes made me cringe, so that's a pretty good start. Some of them I even found to be pretty funny.
Hey, you short king.
Oh my golly, you like girls. So do I. We have so much in common. You put her there, Maggie. Yeah.
Side note.
You like girls. So do I. We have so much in common. I don't think a father ever said that to his daughter before. I don't know. Yeah, I forgot that was in the show. I'm gonna use that. Are you gonna say that to your daughter one day? You gonna say that to your daughter one day? You gonna use that? I don't know. No, to another girl? Like, you're gonna go up to a lesbian or a bisexual and be like, oh, you like girls? So do I. We have so much in common. Can you believe it? I also like girls. Wow. I didn't know you like girls too. Crazy. I have a better chance of pulling a lesbian as a guy. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
And maybe this is a testament to the fact that Charlie and Baggy are probably the most.
All the evidence you need is I went to prom with 2 lesbians that eventually married each other, okay? And yes, I went to prom with 2 women that were both gay.
underwritten characters at this point, but I literally had no clue that they were dating until this scene. Like, I always just assumed they were good friends or business partners. I never noticed anything that would indicate a romantic relationship before this, but then again, I'm not the most observant person, so I'm sure I missed some obvious signs. We go straight into our first musical number, which kind of functions as Lucifer's reintroduction into Charlie's life. All of it is incredibly reminiscent of Genie from Aladdin. In fact, it seems more like an homage to it, considering the recreations of some of the most iconic moments, and I like it a lot. Lucifer's character itself feels like it was inspired by the Genie, considering his erratic and all over the place nature. Again, this performance from Jeremy Jordan is great. He goes all in on the wacky and weird inflections, and it fits really well.
Now, Lucifer wasn't sexual in the show. His wife left him. He's all depressed about it.
I'll rig the game for you because I'm the real.
Then Alistair tries to hijack the song, singing about why he's the one that she should be relying on, even going as far as to make some crazy statements.
It's a little funny. You could almost call me.
Wow, elevate your wellness with an airbag. What?
These are the same kind of mind games I mentioned earlier, just trying to get under Lucifer's skin and maintain his control over Charlie. This progresses until they're eventually battling with violin and piano solos. Love the little Easter egg that Lucifer has a golden fiddle, so glad they added that in. But right when it seems like things are getting heated, a new character joins in and derails the song by declaring that she's here, as if we're supposed to know who she is.
Who?
This song is another great one. It's catchy, it's very well written, and surprisingly funny. Some of the jokes they make in this one actually made me laugh, which once again is a sign of the improved writing.
Usually I charge a sacrificial lamb, but you get the family rate. Thanks, Dad.
Also, as soon as the song started, I immediately thought, this sounds like a Living Tombstone song. You know, the YouTuber who makes the songs about Five Nights at Freddy's and pretty much every super viral video game or YouTube trend. But the Living Tombstone has a very specific song. The kids nowadays call it electro swing, apparently, but I immediately picked up on that sound. So I decided to Google it, and wouldn't you know, Sam Haft, one half of the Living Tombstone, not only helped write and produce this song, but every song in the show, which is super cool. So Mimsy ended up being pretty unimportant. She basically just showed up to explain Alistair's backstory to anyone that didn't watch the pilot, but they do add a couple of extra details, like the fact that Alistair knew Mimsy when they were alive. We also get a scene between Alistair and Husk where Alistair pisses Husk off by being just condescending towards him, and he ends up saying something that Alistair really doesn't like.
Big talk for someone who's also on a leash.
Broadcast your screams for every other disrespectful wretch who dares to question me.
Understood?
Lovely.
This seems to be the first time that we've actually seen Alistair get angry, and it's pretty terrifying. So it turns out that Alistair also sold his soul in some kind of deal to someone, so that's a pretty crazy plot revelation, especially for someone who tries to play the puppet master the entire show. You know, saying that makes me realize that I haven't really said much about Alistair's character up to this point, and I'll say I like Alistair's character a lot. He's always mysterious, he can be genuinely pretty unnerving at times, and I love his arrogant, overconfident attitude in all situations. I do think the whole creepy, powerful side thing gets overdone sometimes, but for the most part, he plays his role pretty well. We also get a reminder of how powerful he is when he has to fend off a group of loan sharks after Mimsy. The rest of the episode sees Charlie trying to convince her—
Oh, the loan sharks were from greed. That makes more sense now after watching Hell of a Boss. I understand.
Dad to help, but he's pretty resistant considering the last time someone had ideas that Heaven didn't like, they sent them down to hell and it didn't end too well for them, aka him. I'm talking about him, Lucifer. That was Lucifer that happened to. So Charlie is once again feeling abandoned by her father, and she begs him to do something. I also love that they continued the Angel and Husk friendship here by having them just munching on popcorn watching the drama unfold. It's pretty funny. We then get a song that's pretty much Lucifer singing about how much he cares about Charlie, while she sings about how much she cares about her mission. Jeremy Jordan's voice in this song is incredible, but it's a very typical duet that you would expect from a musical. Not to say it's bad, it's still pretty great. It's just exactly what you would expect it to be.
I shelter and adore you more than anything.
It's also kind of funny to see them animate Lucifer, who's absolutely singing his ass off, but he just looks like this the whole time. I don't know why, it's so funny to see that to me. Anyways, also there's another Aladdin reference in this song too, so that's kind of funny. But by the end of the song, they've resolved all of their issues, and Lucifer agrees to—
I know, right? I was thinking that too. His voice is good. Dude, Keith Keith Davis, and Lucifer, Husk and Lucifer just did such good jobs. That's why their freaking songs are my favorite. I forgot more than anything existed. That's still number 5, though. Other song.
Help with her plan.
I'm grateful you're my daughter more than anything.
Now, this is an issue I haven't really talked about much, but it's present in almost every episode, and it's that the pacing in this show can be really weird sometimes. Like, they make it seem like Charlie was straight up abandoned by her father. He was never there for her since childhood, and she's clearly very resentful towards him because of it. And Lucifer is hesitant to support his daughter because he sees himself in her and is worried that her dreams will get her hurt. But then one 3-minute duet later, and all of these problems are totally solved. Like, dude, give us some time. At least let her question it a little bit instead of blindly trusting the person that has let her down.
Yeah, but we couldn't do this because there's only 8 episodes of the show, and we had to go like, we'll get to the plot points, You gotta have an angel battle at the end of the show. Come on. That's why.
So many times. Like, couldn't we have just taken a few minutes out of the totally pointless Mimsy part and used that to build this part up a little bit more? Like, at least it would make it just a little bit more convincing. It just feels like they should have made it a bigger priority to develop this very interesting dynamic between our main character and her father. Again, this is kind of an issue with every episode. They're trying to fit a pretty ambitious story into 8 20-minute episodes, so
yeah,
it's not the end of the world or anything. It's just something I noticed. But the episode ends with Lucifer promising a meeting with Heaven and Vaggie mysteriously not wanting to go. So again, another solid episode. No notable moments of poor writing or anything, just the little bit of pacing issues, but other than that, seems like the plot is really about to kick off. So now, let's move on to episode. Episode 6 is probably the second best episode in the show. It starts with Vaggie being suspiciously nervous about visiting Heaven. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang decides to have a night out to celebrate their progress. We also get reintroduced to Cherry Bomb, Angel's explosive friend who we haven't seen since the pilot. Her new voice actor is Australian, and for some reason that fits her character better than literally anything I imagine. It's just so perfect now.
Oh, you can sleep when you're double dead, kid.
She's pretty wild and rowdy, so I guess it just makes sense. She's the arch nemesis.
As we know from Madam Queen, Snakealicious, yes, Australian accents can be very sexy. Okay? Also, yes, I do know Snake started on OnlyFans. No one has to tell me. I know. She sent it to me when she started it.
Of Serpentious, which he immediately points out in his overdramatic fashion, but when she says that they're all going out, he switches up pretty quickly.
I didn't think this would ever happen. What do I do? What do I wear?
Oh, looks like someone has a bit of a crush, huh? So then Charlie and Vaggie arrive in Heaven where they meet the bouncer, St. Peter. When Charlie reveals who she is, we get a pretty reasonable reaction.
Hi, Lucifer? Morning star?
Oh!
Again, the writing in this show is so significantly better in these later episodes. Like, that was a joke that used swearing in a way that made sense. Like, truly unbelievable stuff here. Also, I love St. Peter's design. It feels like it might be somewhat influenced by South Park's Mormons in Heaven. Just very superficially perfect and friendly. I just love it. They also meet the Seraphim, who are kind of like the rulers of Heaven, and one of them is clearly meant to be a mirror image of Charlie. We then get a musical number with Welcome to Heaven, which is the most generic, overly produced, radio-friendly pop song ever, but I actually really like it because of that.
This may look like your favorite childhood crispy treat, and with delicious
Come to heaven, oh, where the virtuous reside.
It seems totally intentional since it's basically the musical representation of Heaven. Ultra sanitized and completely inoffensive. If you heard it playing in a Macy's, you wouldn't give it a second thought. But it's catchy and I still enjoy it. They happen to walk past Adam and Loot, and as I mentioned earlier, Adam's character is far more enjoyable in these later episodes than his introduction. He's still an asshole and obnoxious, but it's not nearly as over the top as it was in the first episode, and he is infinitely more likable because of it. We get another pretty big revelation when we learn from Adam that the Seraphim was the one who'd okayed the extermination to begin with to keep Heaven safe, and the only rule was that no one else in Heaven can know except for the exorcists. Then Adam and Loot pay a visit to Vaggie while Charlie explores Heaven, and we get a total bombshell revelation that Vaggie was an angel exorcist, but Loot attacked her and left her for dead after she wasn't ruthless enough, hence the whole missing eye thing, and it even explains her name.
It's why I named you after the best thing ever, Vaggie.
Actually, it's pronounced Vaggie.
No.
I really like this twist because all of the hints were there from the beginning. I just never even considered it. This whole scene is pretty great. Again, Adam is a much more likable character despite his douchiness, and he has some really funny lines.
I guess I'll just tell Little Miss Butterflies and Rainbows that she's been f***ing someone who's killed thousands of her people.
Not to mention his animations are pretty hilarious, with his face being overly expressive in a much more cartoony way. I just love it, and this scene alone made Adam go from one of my least favorite characters to one of my favorites. At the hearing, we also get to see some other angels whose designs I love, very abstract and biblically accurate type stuff. Charlie's opening statements get interrupted, and I found it pretty funny.
Webster's dictionary defines redemption as...
Objection! Lame and unoriginal.
No further dictionary references, please.
Again, I just cannot believe how much better the writing is. That's like 5 to 6 jokes that actually made me laugh only halfway through the episode. It's honestly just insane. Charlie asks Adam what it takes to get into heaven, and what he comes up with is pretty expected.
Act selfless, don't steal, stick it to the man.
Charlie's plan is to use angel dust as their proof that sinners are able to be rehabilitated, so they watch their night at the club. Cherry suggests that Angel really rages, and Husk pretty much tells Angel that he's better than that, and it's a testament to their newfound friendship, since Husk actually cares about his goal to get into heaven. As the night goes on, Angel cuts Nifty off since she clearly can't hold her drinks too well, and he follows her around as she tries to clean the club. When Cherry questions him on this, his response really speaks to his true character.
She ain't used to this scene. I just don't want her to end up in the gutter like I used to.
He ends up accidentally making Nifty cry, but he also finds a way to make her feel better. He even goes as far as to chase Nifty down to a table where Valentino is sitting, knowing full well what the outcome of this would be. He doesn't take any of Val's shit and unfortunately pays the price for it, even knowing he'll make work a living hell for him the next day. Although I guess technically it already is a living hell, right?
Oh, funny joke, wow.
And by the end, he's even extending an invitation for Cherry to stay at the hotel. This whole club scene is one of my favorite moments in the entire show. As if I hadn't
I think Cherry will stay at the hotel in season 2. Now that Sir Penchance is in heaven, I think she will.
Begun to like these characters enough already. Seeing them all hang out as actual friends made me appreciate them so much more. This is the moment when we see just how much everyone has changed. Angel went out of his way to care for Nifty, knowing that it would be at the expense of his own fun. He even stood up to Val. It just goes to show that underneath everything, he's a good person. And then Husk, he cares about Angel, encouraging him to be responsible, and Angel actually respects his advice. But my favorite character throughout this sequence is Sir Penchance, who has always been very likable, but his attempts to act on his love for Cherry Bomb make him all the more endearing. Throughout the night, he keeps offering Cherry drinks and shots, but he loses confidence every time and covers it up by saying he's actually buying them for everyone.
Because I'm buying everyone a drink.
Free drinks, I love alcohol!
I bought you a shot. Because I bought everyone another shot.
Another drink! I love alcohol!
I would do that. I would buy everyone a shot, I think, at a club or a party. For sure. Like, you know, I don't think buying someone a shot is the best way to show character to a woman. I think showing her that you are able to provide everyone a shot makes it a little bit better. I think, you know, I get it. Sir Penchance was nervous, but I think he probably did a better job than just getting it for her.
But Penchance had to be off the Henny because after a few more, he starts to get real bold.
Maybe you'd want to, do a sex with me.
Despite his Riz being completely unmatched, he folds under the pressure once again and goes back to the old reliable.
I'm having sex with everyone here.
Now, is it crazy of me to say that this is my favorite joke in the whole show? I don't know why it caught me so off guard. It was really the most obvious setup in the world, but I never saw it coming, and it really got me. And yes, after everything I've said, my favorite joke in Hazbin Hotel was a sex joke, so isn't that just poetic? Oh yeah, and after all of that, he ends up getting cucked anyways. His character has kind of been taking L's over and over again throughout the whole series, so I think that's why this whole sequence made me root for him even more. My boy needs to get a W at any cost. So back in heaven, Charlie points out that Angel actually did everything Adam said he needed to do. He was selfless, he stopped Nifty from stealing, and he stuck it to the man. When they have no response to this, Charlie realizes that no one actually knows what gets them into heaven. They try to shut this down, but the younger Seraphim starts a musical number where she sides with Charlie.
But she was right, Sarah. She showed us
random musical number for the win.
Charlie is pissed at the unfairness of everything, but the main Seraphim insists that there's a lot more to all of this. Her voice is incredible too, I will say. Like when she started singing, I was like, damn.
No,
then she gets cut off by Lou and Adam, who switched their song to their signature rock sound and do a little reprise of Hell is Forever, which was sick. Lute's voice is also super incredible. I love it.
There's no question to be posed. He's unholy, case closed. Did you forget that hell is forever?
But they pretty much are like, no shot anyone's coming up here. But Adam slips up and mentions the exterminations, which were a secret, and the younger Seraphim is appalled by this, which... Jesus. Which leads to her doing a duet with Charlie, which is their own reprise of Hell is Forever, where they change the lyrics to be about how BS all of this is, and I'm not gonna lie, this gave me goosebumps.
If hell is forever, then heaven must be a lie. Emily.
I am an absolute sucker for a good reprise, and with the context of using it against Adam, it was so good. I just love this song. But Adam realizes that he lost this argument, so he goes for the low blow and reveals that Vaggie is actually an angel. Charlie is absolutely stunned, and Sarah makes the ruling that there is no evidence that a sinner can be redeemed and sends them back to hell. I think the dynamic between the Seraphim here is actually pretty interesting because the older one is clearly doing what she thinks she needs to do to protect her people, but in the process she's doing some pretty evil things, which is very not subtly symbolized in this scene. All around, I love this episode. It was funny, there was a ton of great character moments, a ton of plot progression and revelations, pun intended. One of my favorite songs. All around, this was another incredible episode. So, let's go on to episode. So it's only slightly awkward back at the hotel, considering they just found out one of their close friends was actively genociding their people not long ago. But again, we see signs of the improved writing because Angel makes another pretty funny joke related to sex.
Do you ever think maybe she's sensitive about her lack of wings? Just like her lack of tits?
Yeah, where are your tits?
Meanwhile, Charlie is in her room freaking out since her entire world is collapsing around her, and Alistair sneaks in, seeing the perfect opportunity to take advantage of a vulnerable person. He's acting like a dick, and she accuses him of enjoying suffering, which he responds to with some pretty interesting wisdom.
Just because you see a smile, don't think you know what's going on underneath. It inspires your friends, keeps your enemies guessing, and ensures that no matter what comes your way, you're the one in control.
Alistair proposes a deal to give some information to Charlie. Charlie knows it's like rule number 1 to not make deals with overlords, but he says that all he needs in return is one favor where she doesn't have to hurt anyone, and she's too desperate to refuse it. They make the deal, and we get a bunch of weird voodoo symbols and cool visuals. I like how they show Alistair's smile as being like literally sewed on, kind of mirroring the whole speech he gave about how a smile's a tool and how it's all fake. Anyways, so Charlie then tasks Vaggie with talking to Camilla to find out how she killed an exorcist, and she's clearly still not trusting of Vaggie after the recent events. So Charlie and Alistair head off to meet with someone that can help them. They end up in Cannibal Town, where they find Rosie, another overlord who rules over Cannibal Town. Rosie is just the best. She's overwhelmingly friendly, funny, and charismatic, which makes it all the more terrifying to know that she's as powerful as she is.
Small thing like you're probably watching your figure. How about some nice pinky fingers instead?
Alistair proposes his idea to recruit the cannibals to fight by promising all-you-can-eat Angel, and Rosie accepts rather emphatically.
What can I say? I like your moxie, girl. And old Alistair has never done me wrong before.
She advises Charlie to use some pizzazz to get them on her side, and she just so happens to be an expert at that. But she also warns her about Susan, who is their main target since she's very difficult to win over. Charlie goes up there and gives it a try, but it doesn't go very well.
Whoa! Great Rosie back.
I love how Susan is a true hater. Like, Charlie doesn't even get a sentence out before she starts booing. Her pure dedication to just hating is honestly commendable, and I love it. So Charlie ends up snapping and gets pulled off stage. Meanwhile, Vaggie visits Camilla and demands to know how she killed the angel, but Camilla isn't exactly interested in helping. But then she starts kicking her ass and reveals that she knows that Vaggie is an angel, which gives us a pretty funny moment.
You have a giant X over your eye and wield an angelic spear. It's not rocket science.
Vaggie then makes the claim that she didn't know angels can be harmed, which is weird considering, you know, she's an angel and had her eye cut out and her wings cut off, but maybe she meant she didn't know someone in hell could hurt an angel.
Dude, you're right. She did have her eye cut out and wings cut off. How did she not know that the angels could be hurt? Bruh.
I don't know, but it seemed like a kind of dumb thing to say. I don't get how she didn't know.
Absolutely
But Camilla's
right.
point is that angels have no defense because they didn't even know they could be harmed. So they're super easy to hit if you actually do fight back. She then reveals that the only way to hurt angels is with angelic weapons, leading us into a musical number where she discusses how she needs to fight to protect her loved ones.
But you'll only stand a chance if you're out for love, out for love.
It's kind of like a Latin pop song. It reminds me of like Jennifer Lopez. Lyrically, it's pretty unremarkable, but musically it's good, and it's a pretty cool training scene that ends with her growing new wings. They don't really explain why. I assume it has something to do with like her body getting used to fighting again or something and like reactivating the wings. I don't know, but yeah, realistically, it's just to close out her mini training arc, but still. So then Charlie is getting a little therapy session from Rosie, and did I mention that Rosie is just the best? She is such a comforting presence, very motherly, and I want her to be my therapist. She has a heart-to-heart with Charlie and makes some really good points.
Isn't that silly hotel of yours all about redemption? She's flawed, but hey, who down here isn't?
It's just all around very sweet, and she reminds Charlie that her actions are of someone who loves her, and it gives Charlie the courage to assemble the troops. The song is exactly what you'd expect, the climactic "it's my time to shine" type thing, and it has some pretty funny moments too.
We're super duper grateful to have you folks aboard.
It's very climactic, and it's clearly meant to be
I thought that was the second worst song in the show.
Charlie's moment of accepting that she can actually do this. This song is just all around fun. It does a really good job of building that anticipation for the upcoming battle.
I really hope that I'm ready for this.
So Charlie and Vaggie pull up to the hotel with the cannibals and the weapons, where they have a sweet little moment where they make up. And when they head back into the hotel, they find that everyone else stuck around to fortify the hotel. Again, it's just wholesome to see them all being friends and caring for each other. It's honestly heartwarming, and it just reminds me that I love all these characters in the show now. So with that, we're on to the final.
Here we go.
The episode opens by reminding us that, oh yeah, this is a character they introduced, pretty much saying, yeah, we kind of did nothing with this character the entire season, but he'll be important next season, so don't forget about him. Penchis pulls up with the crazy new fit, looking fresh as hell, and Nifty asks how she can help, and Charlie tells her.
If you see an angel, stab it.
Which leads to a moment of confusion that I'm surprised hadn't happened at all up to this point. Also, I love how they animated Angel dismounting this pole. I just thought that was funny. So Charlie gives a heartfelt speech about how much all of them mean to her, and they have their celebratory drinks with Sir Penchis leading a toast.
Here's to being alive today and not dying tomorrow.
This is just more of these characters being friends with each other, and like I've said a few times now, it is just so wholesome to see. It's truly cathartic, honestly. Even Alistair seems to actually enjoy being in the company of them, having an awkward laugh with Nifty. Angel and Husk have a moment where Husk points out how much he's changed, and it's extremely corny, but at the same time I can't help but find it sweet. Also, quick little side note, I've seen people saying that they want Angel and Husk to get together like an actual relationship, and I really hope that doesn't happen, because honestly I just love their friendship, and I don't want it to be anything other than a friendship, because they truly just seem like they were meant to
be. If they get into a relationship, that would ruin like 99% of what made that relationship good. It really would.
Be homies, and I do not want any kind of relationship getting in the way of that. Sir Penchis even gets one more attempt at Cherry Bomb, coming so close to admitting his feelings, but once again bailing last second.
Please don't die tomorrow, okay, bye.
He does compliment her explosive ability though. Angel even tries playing wingman for him, which again just goes to show how much they've changed considering he was planning on murdering him in the second episode. Charlie is worried, but Vaggie cheers her up with an encouraging duet, which just ends up being a reprise of More Than Anything, which I kind of hate, I'm not gonna lie. It's just kind of lame that they just did a reprise, but, you know, I guess it's kind of sweet, and we finally see at least something romantic between them to indicate...
Is the worst song in the show, no questions asked. I hated it.
That they are actually dating. Meanwhile, Adam and Lute rally the troops up in heaven, with Lute even taking it a little too far for him, which is pretty hilarious considering it's Adam.
Rip Vaggie's mouth out her ass!
You just chill, Lute.
So the battle begins, and it's cool to see their new costumes. Some of them even have normal ties instead of bow ties, so you know it's getting serious. Alistair builds a giant shadow shield that can also wield weapons, which seems a little OP to me, but I love this delivery from Adam.
They appear to have some kind of shield, sir!
Oh, really? I didn't see this giant fucking shield in front of me, you dumb bitch! No shit!
This scene is clearly very Avengers inspired, even in their sarcastic quips and one-liners mid-battle.
Hey! Yelling while fighting doesn't help.
So Adam ends up squaring up with Alistair, which is exciting because we finally get to see just how powerful Alistair is. They both have their own Mortal Kombat opening cutscenes and then they're off. I found Alistair's writing to be kind of cringe here. It just feels like they were trying way too hard to tap into that look how cool and edgy and powerful he is, which is made all the better because Adam actually calls it out.
A mortal soul is no match for me, edgelord.
So then they have all of those look how cool and powerful Alistair is moments just for him to get absolutely bodied without actually doing any damage to Adam. Like, it really took away from his scariness because they made him look way too vulnerable. Maybe it's because this genius puppet master supervillain decided to fight Adam without angelic weapons, supposedly the only thing that can hurt an angel. Like, what did you expect to happen? Of course you're gonna lose. But we get to see everyone in action here, which is pretty cool. I also thought this little joke from Sir Pentious was pretty funny as well.
Get ready for them, Vagifar!
Not my name, but got it.
Speaking of Sir Pentious, he knows that with Adam up in the sky shooting lasers, there's not much they can do, so he realizes what needs to be done. He makes sure to grab Cherry Bomb and finally gets the W that we've all been waiting for.
Miss Cherry Bomb, I love you. Remember me!
That was kind of hot.
He gets in a Zeppelin and charges up the death ray, ready to give Adam a taste of his own medicine.
That could have...
Listen, I get why they did it like that, but also fuck you, show. Was it really worth the joke? I know it's an appropriately pathetic ending for him, but he just had his whole character arc complete. At least let him nick him and weaken him a little bit or something, like a Guy versus Madara situation. Like, let my boy go out with a W at least. But this makes Charlie mad enough to finally enter her Sage mode, which they've been teasing for this entire show. It doesn't end up going too well, and Vaggie ends up facing off with Lute to get her get back, Kakashi v Obito style. You know, I just realized how accurate that comparison is too, with the missing eye and everything. That's actually kind of crazy. Anyways, they even play like a boxing bell sound effect when the fight starts, which I thought was kind of funny. Lute gets the better of her, but she outsmarts her during her final villain monologue by collapsing the hotel on her head. Because, as we all know, the only things that can harm angels are angelic weapons and random building rubble, I guess. She does the extremely cliche, I'll let you live in embarrassment knowing I beat you thing, which is whatever. But Lute's also a badass and isn't taking it lying down. Again, like I mentioned, the pacing is kind of weird because they're trying to fit so much into an episode. This all happens in like the span of 30 seconds, so it doesn't feel like they have time to develop it or anything, but it's still fine. So just when all hope seems lost, Lucifer enters the battle to save the day with a super badass one-liner.
And now I am going to f you.
It's f you up, Dad.
Wait, what did I say?
Again, I'm still impressed that they're writing jokes where the punchline is sex or profanity, and it's actually making me laugh. Anyways, Lucifer absolutely clowns Adam, not even breaking a sweat and even flexing on him that he hooked up with both.
I do think it's super funny that Lucifer came in here.
Both of his wives, which is just absolutely diabolical. Charlie is saved by Lucifer once again, and she ends it by charging up her Rasengan and catching Adam's fist. Lucifer finishes him off, and we see Adam without his mask, which for some reason I never realized was a mask, and it makes me much more appreciative of the character designs because if that's how Vivziepop does humans, I do not want to see anymore. So Charlie insists that Lucifer spares Adam, which allows him to get off his final villain monologue, which is interrupted by someone I did not expect.
Nifty!
So if we're power scaling the characters up to this point, this just confirms that Nifty is in fact the second most powerful character in the entire show. They end it with an extremely corny piece of Marvel dialogue, and it really made me roll my eyes.
So, who's up for pancakes?
The day is saved, but the hotel and Sir Pentious are lost, which makes Charlie feel like a failure, only to be encouraged by her father, leading us into the final musical number.
Only you can do this. Now I know it. For your story has just begun.
It's a reprise of Happy Day in Hell, with everyone uniting to help rebuild the hotel. We also get the bees basically telling us that they're going to be more relevant in the next season, and Alistair having a bit of a mental breakdown that concludes with him ensuring to us that he's going to find a way out of his deal and be more powerful than ever. They press F to pay respects to Sir Pentious and end it by showing us the new and improved Hazbin Hotel. And if the ending couldn't have been any happier, we see Sir Pentious finally get the biggest W of all, respawning in heaven.
What? Where am I? Oh. Hello?
His final act of sacrifice must have been enough to redeem his soul, and even more importantly, he proved for the first time that it's possible. This has huge implications because not only does this prove that Charlie's hotel works, but it's irrefutable proof to heaven that it's possible for a soul to be redeemed, which they just claimed there was no evidence of. The final scene of the season shows Lute meeting up with a woman in heaven and telling her that she needs to go stop Charlie, revealing that this woman is Lilith. Whoa, twist ending. Charlie's mother is in heaven for some reason and seems to be working with the angels. Who knows why? So theory time. The first thing I noticed about Lilith is that Charlie said in the first scene of the show that she's been gone for 7 years. Very specific amount of time, considering we also hear that someone else has been missing for this exact same amount of time. Alistair. What else did we learn about Alistair? He is in some kind of contract with someone, and he just showed up to the hotel one day for seemingly no reason. We know nothing about his motive for helping Charlie, initially claiming he just likes to see people fail, but that's clearly a cover-up for whatever his true intentions are. So in my opinion, it seems like Alistair is probably in a contract with Lilith. I suspect that this contract either has something to do with Alistair helping Charlie, or he's trying to get close to Charlie to try to break the contract, like how he...
Yeah. It's almost guaranteed. It's pretty much guaranteed. I agree with his statement here. Lilith and Alistair are definitely in a contract together.
Asked Charlie for a non-violent favor, like since it's her mom, maybe she can break the contract in some way, I don't know. Alistair also says that he would unclip his wings in the last song, which seems like an oddly specific choice of words. Perhaps it hints at his ties with the angels, or perhaps even his identity as an angel. I mean, who knows? Anything is possible at this point. I also wonder if this is actually the last we're going to see of Adam. I mean, we just saw that you can go from hell to heaven if you change, and I'd imagine that the opposite would also be possible, especially for someone like Adam, who was probably originally a good person to get into heaven, but after being in heaven so long, it's not like he has the risk of not being in heaven anymore, so he became a pretty terrible person. So considering he just...
I agree with the statement too. I think Adam will end up in hell as well for season 2.
Died, I'd imagine he could probably get sent to hell like how Sir Pentious got sent to heaven. I don't know, it seems like that might be a possibility, but we'll see. These are all just theories. Now I'm about to talk about what I think is kind of like the core message of this show, but before that I wanted to reiterate on just how terrible the pacing of this show can be at times. Honestly, it's one of the worst things about this show because there's just so much character development and stuff that just kind of flies by over the course of an episode, and it's pretty obvious to me that with how ambitious this show is and how many different things they tried to do, they definitely were expecting to have more than 8 episodes, and I think if that were the case, it would have allowed a lot more time to develop these relationships and plot points without stuff feeling as rushed as it ends up feeling in the final show. And I say this all as a precursor for what I'm about to talk about because this is kind of the reason I think that many people feel this way about the show. So after finishing the show, I came to a realization. Charlie has absolutely no clue what she's doing at all. All of her methods to try to rehabilitate people are basically just variations of youth pastor exercises, and they do absolutely nothing to change anyone. The more I thought about it, the more I began to question the ways that characters changed throughout. Why does anyone even care about protecting the hotel? Vaggie tells them that they can leave before the big battle, but they all stay. What motivation do they even have to stay? The hotel isn't even doing anything for them. Is there actually a reason any of them changed? I certainly can't think of anything Charlie did to help them change, so what made them start acting like better people? Was there really even a reason for anyone to change, or was it just shoehorned in for plot purposes? Well, after looking back, I came to the conclusion that, yes, there was reason for everyone to change. It wasn't just out of nowhere, but I think a lot of people aren't gonna like my reasoning. What I realized is that, in reality, the hotel itself and Charlie didn't do anything to help these people. I mean, telling a bunch of demons how they can be better people will only get you so far. But that doesn't mean the hotel didn't work. What the hotel and Charlie did do, however, was give these demons a reason to become better people. During their time at the hotel, these characters all develop a bond with each other. At first, they can't stand each other, but as they spend more time together and learn about each other, their friendship grows. They appreciate and care about each other. They relate to each other. They become a family. And by caring for the people that they begin to love, they teach themselves to become good people. So even though they didn't really show us the specific moments that these characters changed, the way these characters begin to form bonds with each other over time is shown. Granted, they probably don't do it enough considering, like I said, the pacing issues. I do think they should have shown more of these characters bonding with each other and becoming friends, but these bonds are the reason that they're willing to change. They become better people for the people that they care about. Angel didn't just one day decide to become a good person, he started to care about the people in the hotel. He didn't take drugs with...
And I do think the show did a really good job, at least describing the premise of them becoming good people, because I don't think there was enough of it in the show showing that they're getting to heaven, right? Him just randomly showing up there doesn't really mean anything to me. Yeah, he did the ultimate sacrifice and got up there, okay? Right? But Angel learning to be better.
Cherry because he didn't want to disappoint Husk. He fulfilled all of Adam's rules of heaven because he wanted to protect Nifty. He was even willing to stick up for her against Valentino, knowing what the outcome would be. Husk encouraged Angel and pretty much single-handedly set him on the path to improving himself, despite gaining nothing from it himself. He was there for him when no one else was, and stuck around to make sure that he stayed on track. Sir Pentious was willing to lay down his life to protect his friends. Vaggie was fighting to protect the person she cares about the most. Charlie's entire purpose from the beginning was to protect her people. Nifty even feels comfortable being herself around everyone, implying that it's the only time she's felt that way. Even Alistair seemed to have developed some level of camaraderie with everyone, aside from his secret, sketchy plan. So no one just changed for no reason, they changed because they cared about their friends. Of course they wanted to stay and defend the hotel. It was never about the hotel. It was about protecting their friends. Protecting the people who were willing to help them when they were at their lowest point. The people who saw the good in them and gave them the opportunity to prove it was really there. Charlie had absolutely no clue how to help these people. None of her methods were effective in any way. But what she did do was foster a group of people who were at rock bottom. They formed bonds so strong that they could have only been formed between broken people. They cared about helping each other become better so much that they inadvertently became better people themselves. Charlie was wrong in her methods, but through these failures, she discovered what it really took to get these people to change. The hotel didn't do anything, but what we realized is that it was never about the hotel to begin with. Over time, we came to the realization that maybe the real Hazbin Hotel was the friends we made along the way.
Well, that was super cliche, but he's probably right. That really was, I think what you're supposed to take out of the show.
Which is the most appropriately corny message this show could have given us.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, so since the script ended up being 49 pages and I'm incredibly tired of writing, I'm doing this live. So I'm only including the songs from the main show, I'm not including the ones from the pilot. The 2 pilot songs I don't really even like all that much anyways, so they're kind of pointless to include anyways. So the last place spot is going to go to More Than Anything, the reprise from episode 8. It's just incredibly short, first of all. It's literally just the exact same song as the original one, and they just make it a lot less interesting than even the original one, which already wasn't that great in the first place. Not to mention, I just don't really care for Vaggie's singing voice that much. I know I've heard people say that they really like it. I don't personally like it all that much. And even Charlie in the song is just singing in such a high register that just feels unnatural. And I don't know, this song is the only one I would consider to be mid. Also, literally no interesting visuals or anything, any kind of cool animation on the screen. The only thing we get is the Charlie and Vaggie kiss, which I mean is whatever. There's nothing else really interesting about this. Alright, so up next in the 15th spot is going to be Whatever It Takes. Now, I think this one might be an unpopular opinion. I'm sure people love this song, and I kind of like this song more in theory than I do in practice. I like the rock opera vibe that they go for, and the fact that it's a duet is pretty cool, but I was also the duet between these two seems kind of pointless. I get that it's kind of foreshadowing their interaction later, but I don't know, it just seems like a weird thing to do. Again, I don't really like Vaggie's singing voice all that much. Camilla's voice is okay, but it's just not for me, really. I like what they were going for with the parallels between the two, and again, I really don't understand why Vaggie has all the pirate stuff. I get that she's missing an eye, but that doesn't make her a pirate. I don't understand that, but yeah, this song's just okay. All right, so in the 14th spot is It Starts With Sorry. Now, this actually shows how high quality most of the songs are in this, because I actually really like this song. The problem is it's just really short. Like, it's literally like 30 seconds long. I don't know if that's true, but it's very short. It's pretty typical. It does feel kind of like an afterthought on the episode, like they just needed to throw an extra song in there, so they made this. I love the part where Sir Pentious and Charlie are singing at the same time. I wish they did more of that. If they had done more of that, I think that would have been a lot higher, and if it were just a little longer, it would have been a lot higher. But I also like the visuals. I really like the shading on Baggy and Angel Dust whenever they try to kill Sir Pentious, and I even like the little like fireworks in the background and stuff. And also, one of my favorite parts of this song is how Sir Pentious's blinks like sync up with the music at the beginning. I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, this one's just good.
It'll take time to cover my vast multitude of sins.
All right, so in the number 13 spot, we got Welcome to Heaven. Now, like I mentioned, I really like this song because it's just so generic and overly produced. It really just sounds like a pop radio song, and I think that really fits the vibe of Heaven really well, so I think it does a good job for what it's supposed to do. But then again, it is just an overly produced generic radio pop song, so it kind of, you know, it's nothing remarkable musically, but it's fine. It's entertaining, so. And the visuals are just average as well. I mean, it's cool to see Heaven and get a look at it, but nothing super crazy happens or anything. All right, so in the number 12 spot, we have More Than Anything. This song is pretty good. This song is definitely at its best whenever they're going back and forth with their singing, or when they're singing together at the same time. Everything before that is just kind of okay. I do like how the lyrical content sort of pushes forward the story a little bit, and I really, really love Lucifer's voice in this. Like I said, the guy that does Lucifer's voice is incredible. Visually, this one's also really nice. I did like the Aladdin reference, like I mentioned. All around, this one's just pretty good too.
I'm grateful you're my daughter more than anything.
All right, number 11 is going to be Out for Love. Now, I actually really love the music in this one. I love like the Latin-inspired guitar and just how like upbeat it is. It feels like a club song. Like that's kind of how it feels. Like I said, it feels like a Jennifer Lopez song. And Camilla's voice actor does a fantastic job on this song. I like it way more than her other song. And I think that the little training montage we get in the background is super interesting visually, and it really adds a lot to it. The only problem I have with this song is just how incredibly corny the lyrics are. It really makes me roll my eyes to hear her talk about how she needs to fight for love. Like, I don't know. It's just so on the nose. It feels like a Naruto episode where he's just reading off his like typical like talk no jutsu script. So I don't know, it's really good other than that, but that's the one critique I have. All right, so number 10 is going to be Ready for This. This is Charlie's song to rile up the troops and get ready to actually fight the battle. I think it does a great job of setting that vibe of preparing for this big battle. I like how she kind of goes army, like military recruitment mode, and gets everyone in on it. I think that the cannibals lines are pretty funny. I like how it switches up musically a couple times, and in the end it builds to a good crescendo that kind of seals it all together. All around, this one's just pretty good.
I really hope that I'm ready for this.
So at number 9 is Happy Day in Hell. Honestly,
Nope,
this
hate
song
that one
is just
too.
the perfect way to start off this show. I love the vibe that it sets, and introducing us to Charlie's voice actor and hearing her sound like a Disney princess right off the bat, it just really sets the tone. I really like how it like switches up halfway through and she says that line about the cinephiles watching bukkake shows and stuff. Like it's kind of ridiculous, and visually it's a really good way to introduce us to hell and to see what hell is all about and how like terrible it actually is. So it's really just a great song all around as well. Then at number 8, we have Finale, or the reprise of Happy Day in Hell. I do think it's better than the original Happy Day in Hell. I think that everyone singing together on this song really adds a lot. I think where this song is the weakest is when it goes over to Alistair. Like, Alistair's whole part is kind of just whatever. Every other part, though, is really good, and I think that it works super well as the closing track with the big crescendo at the end and everyone singing together, especially as we get to watch them rebuild the hotel and just continue to develop their friendships.
I do think the final was good.
All right, at number 7, we've got Respectless. This one, I think, musically is one of the best sounding songs. I think if we were just going based off music, it'd probably be in my top 3. I love Velvet's voice actor in this. She absolutely kills it. She has so much energy. Like, the way that she says her lines is just so perfect. I really like how also, like, Zeshtul will slip in with his own little line. I think that is really smooth and it works really well. And, of course, Camilla's parts are great, too. The only issue with this song is, like I said, it is a little tiny bit cringe with the, like, super modern references, trying to show how young she is. But, I mean, other than that, this one's pretty great.
But I'm that hashtag bitch, and I will do nothing less than what I please. Woo! I'm the backbone of the vase.
All right, number 6 is Stayed Gone. So this song absolutely
This one's
nails
really
the
good.
villain introduction sound. The intro of Vox saying that he's gonna make Alistair wish that he had stayed gone does a really good job of setting up Vox as a villain. And then when it goes into his little like schizophrenic rap, as I called it, where it's just going all over the place and he's just like, he's not even like rapping or singing, he's kind of just talking over the beat. It doesn't sound great, but it works really well for the context, as he's supposed to be on the news basically telling this story to everyone in hell that Radio Demon's back in town and everyone should not even worry about it because he's barely a threat. And I love when Alistair takes over the song and just totally hijacks it and just starts dissing Vox. And of course, Alistair doing a callback to the intro by repeating his words back to him, but doing it in like half speed, and it's so much more terrifying. It's like the coldest thing ever. I love that whole sequence. And visually, this is probably one of the best looking songs out of all of them. Like, I love seeing Vox on all the TV stations and them going back and forth like cartoon Looney Tunes style, kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit, and especially Alistair at the end and how terrifying and creepy he looks, as that's like the first time we really get to see him like that. Everything works so well.
Oh, this will be fun.
So number 5 is Poison. What is there to even say about Poison? I think everyone loves this song. I'm pretty sure it's probably the most popular one. This really just feels like a song that you would just hear on the radio, but like in a good way. It's like a good song you would hear on the radio, unlike Welcome to Heaven, which is just kind of the generic song you would hear on the radio. It's very reminiscent, like I mentioned, of old Kesha, that old genre of pop music. The visuals are super effective really for what they're going for. I love how they did it like music video style with the way they cut it up. It's like super impactful seeing Angel go through all this terrible shit, and then at the end, the way his voice begins to crack and you can see him like just deteriorating in front of your eyes. It really works really well, and I love this song. Alright, number 4 is Hell's Greatest Dad. This is the one that, like I said, it's basically a living Tombstone song. Like I mentioned, I really like the genie vibe that they kind of go for. And the production on this song, like the music itself, is just so great. I love the electro swing stuff. Jeremy Jordan and his wacky cadences all over the place kills it as Lucifer. Alistair's part is kind of not as great in my opinion, but I do like how they go back and forth and like the context of basically fighting over Charlie. I think it works really well. The ending with Mimsy is just kind of whatever. I know people probably don't like that part if I had to guess, but personally I don't care. It doesn't really affect the song all that much in my opinion, and I still think this is easily one of the best songs in the show.
Looks like you could use some help from the big boss of hell himself.
So number 3 is going to be Hell is Forever. It's kind of a shame Adam died because I'd love to hear more songs from him in the next season. Like I said, it is technically possible that he comes back, I guess, but we'll see. This song is all around great. I love like the guitar riffs and the overall vibe of like a rock song just telling you that, yeah, you're kind of screwed and you're staying in hell no matter what. And I really love the visuals, especially the breakdown when we see Adam and the other angel like being so creepy, almost like backing Charlie into a corner as they break it down. It's so good, and I think it works super well.
They're burning for their lives until we kill them again.
So at number 2, I have You Didn't Know, which I think might actually be an unpopular opinion. I haven't seen many people talk about this song, but I think narratively this is one of the best songs, as it really feels like a musical song in the sense that it's like giving us a ton of different plot revelations at the same time. And I love how it just goes all over the place to like 10 different characters at a time. And like I mentioned, I am such a sucker for a good reprise, and when they redo like the Hell is Forever thing, I was like, oh, that's so sick. And especially when Charlie and Emily do their own rendition of Hell is Forever, it's just so cool. Visually, this one's just pretty decent. It's not the best visually, but I think how great the music is really makes up for that, and this one ended up being my number 2 pick.
What are we even talking about? Some crack or who fucked up already?
So number 1 is just super obvious for me. It's Loser Baby. I really think this song is miles better than even any of the other songs in the show. This is the song that introduced me to Hazbin Hotel in the first place and even got me to watch it in the first place, like I mentioned. Musically, it's incredible. I love like the, I want to say saxophone in the background and like how like jazzy it is. And of course, Keith David as Husk, his voice, I mean, I hadn't really heard him sing before, and hearing him sing on this track makes me want to hear him sing way more because his voice is perfect. Like, this style of song was also just completely written for his voice. It works so well. And of course, lyrically, this is by far the best. I just love the dynamic between Angel and Husk, and the way that at first it seems like Husk is kind of dissing Angel, but over time it's pretty clear that he's actually trying to encourage Angel. And Angel's pissed off about it at first, but over time he starts to realize what's actually going on, and he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right, Husk. And I don't know, I just love this song so much. I mean, visually, it's probably my favorite too. The way that they dance around, like super, like, I don't even know what style of dancing that would be considered, but that aesthetic along with like the city streets and all the neon signs and everything, it's so good. I think it's the best song in the show, and honestly, it is not even close.
It's time to lose your self-loathing, excuse yourself.
Yeah, I think Bloom did an amazing job on this video. It was really phenomenal. I agreed with almost every one of his points. I don't agree with his music ranking, other than Loser Baby being number 1. It truly is the best one. But yeah. All right. Well, that was the last video we had. I want to thank you all much. I want to thank you, YouTube, for watching this video. Please, I'm trying to get 500 subscribers. So if you liked it, like hearing my thoughts and reactions to it, try to get me there. I would appreciate that. Otherwise, there is a Discord for people to join and come talk to me. But yeah, that is it for this video. You have a good one.